Chapter 71. Nian Bing held 3 blades. Since Wanderer did not chase after her, he would not be a threat to her. She looked at Wanderer and asked, "How do you know that I am younger than you?" Wanderer laughed and said, "Your voice is obviously fake. You can fool ordinary people, but you want to fool me? It won't be that easy. If I tell you to come over, then come over. I will not harm you. This time, I will consider your robbery a success. To think that this is the first time in my life that I have been robbed successfully. I have to give you face." After saying that, his gaze fell on Nian Bing's chest. Nian Bing subconsciously lowered his head to take a look. Only then did he realize that the heavenly flower token that hung around his neck was exposed after his clothes were torn. The white jade shone with a lustrous luster. His heart skipped a beat, and he immediately understood something. He reverted to his original voice and asked in a strange tone, "You know the owner of this token?" Wanderer nodded and said, "This is my sister-in-law's thing. Kid, since you are humming this plate, you should recognize me. Why did you come to rob me? Tell me, what is your relationship with the owner of this plate?" Nian Bing snorted and said, "Aren't you afraid that I stole this plate? Since I am here to rob, I am not a good person." The vagabond laughed, once again revealing his big yellow teeth. "What a joke! This is the funniest joke in the world. In this continent, I'm afraid there aren't many people who can take my sister-in-law's things. You think you can? You can't even beat me. How can you take it? All right, since you're not willing to say, I will not ask anymore. Anyway, I will give face to the owner of this plate. At most, I will ask her to pay me back and leave." At this time, Wanderer's subordinate had already ridden back. His horse-controlling technique was extremely exquisite. He came to Wanderer's side and handed over a large leather bag. Wanderer did not even look at it and directly threw the leather bag to Nian Bing. "Take it and spend it. Don't be a robber in the future. This is not a good job. If you lose your life, your family will be sad for you." Nian Bing received the leather bag. The light in his eyes flickered continuously. Family Ariu reminded him of his parents. At the same time, he also remembered the owner of this heavenly flower tablet. "I actually robbed a merchant caravan protected by Aniyu's friend. No, this won't do. How can I take this money?" In his heart, Xiang Ruyan, who had given him the heavenly flower token, was one of the few people he respected the most. Nian Bing had never been a dog, but the person who snorted to himself. But he cherished it very much. "Since you know the owner of this brand, I don't want the money. You can leave now." After saying that, he turned around and walked towards Garamandes. A figure flashed. The vagrant, who had just received the leather pouch and was somewhat surprised, felt that the leather pouch in his hand was gone. Garamandes weighed the leather element in his hand and chuckled. "Not bad, not bad. That's a lot of money. It's enough to eat for a while. Why wouldn't they want it? It's a waste if they don't want it. If you don't want it, I want it." Nian Bing turned around and looked at Garamandes with a complicated gaze. Suddenly, as if he had decided on something, he resolutely said, "Garamandes, return the money to them. You can't take this money." Garamandes snorted and said, "When did it become your turn to ask me? You say I can't take it, so I can't take it? I want it." Garamandes, return the money to them. Even if I have to go begging on the streets, I will definitely let you eat your fill." Nian Bing's expression was very calm, but his voice revealed an unprecedented aura. Garamandes' heart shook. This was the first time he had seen Nian Bing with such a serious expression. Even when he had threatened his life, he had not seen him like this. He frowned and said, "Begging? How much money can I get from begging?" Nian Bing took a few steps to Garamandes and said in a deep voice, "You still want to pick them up? I'll sell Chinlu. That should be enough, right?" Garamandes' eyes were filled with shock. After interacting with Nian Bing for so long, he knew that the Morning Dew and upright yang blades were Nian Bing's most treasured items. At this moment, he actually wanted to sell the Morning Dew for an outsider's money. It could be seen how important this matter was to him. Garamandes did not insist, and threw the money pouch back to Lu Lang in disdain. "Fine. If you want to be a good person, then do it. Just let me eat my fill." After saying that, he walked along the main road without looking back. The shock in Vagrant's heart was unparalleled. First of all, he did not have the time to see what Sugar Mandy's was doing. If the other party wanted to take his life with that kind of speed, he would not even have the chance to dodge. What kind of power was this? Perhaps even his big brother would not be able to reach that level. Could it be that this red-haired young man was a god? Nian Bing bowed to Lu Lang and said, "I'm sorry. I did not know that you were Auntie Yu's friends. Please forgive me for offending you just now." After saying that, he chased after Garamandes. At this moment, he felt that he had done something that he was most proud of. Even Garamandes was moved by him. "Auntie Yu, you won't blame me, right? How are you now? Are you okay?" After the caravan left, Lu Lang did not chase after them to ask any more questions. He noticed that all the horses in the caravan were trembling slightly when Nian Bing and Garamandes passed by them. Only after they passed by did the horses regain their ability to move again. He could not guess the origins of Nian Bing and Lu Lang, but now he completely believed that these two people really had the ability to rob the caravan that he was protecting. Lu Lang shouldered an important mission. Although he was very curious about the origins of Nian Bing, now is not the time to ask more. Everything would wait until he finished this mission and went back to ask about it. Although Garamandes deliberately hid his begging aura, horses were psychic animals. The looming long qi on his body was still felt by the horses. Therefore, although these horses had been trained for a long time, they were still deterred by Garamandes' aura. "Nian Bing, do you know those people just now?" Garamandes finally spoke. After walking for an hour, Nian Bing remained silent. Naturally, the prideful Garamandes did not speak. However, in the end, he could not stand the loneliness. Nian Bing shook his head and said, "I don't know." "Garamandes, do you still remember? I once told you that when I first cultivated the origin of ice and fire, I was saved by this heavenly flower token. Without it, I would have died long ago. It is impossible for me to cultivate the origin of ice and fire. The Radiant Knight, who fought with me, just now knew the owner of this token. Therefore, I really can't rob them. However, I lied to you about the pagoda. The ice goddess stone on the morning dew dagger is the last thing that my mother left me. I will definitely not sell it. But don't worry, I will definitely let you eat until you are full. After we arrive at Holland, I will find a restaurant to be a chef. It should be no problem for me to provide you with food." Garamandes suddenly patted Nian Bing's shoulder and chuckled. "I knew that you would not be willing to sell it. Forget it this time. Anyway, when the time comes, we will just have to eat. However, after not interacting with you humans for a few years, I didn't expect you humans to have become so strong. What level of warrior is that fellow just now? Looking at his attire, he should be a very ordinary warrior." Nian Bing glanced at Garamandes. She said, "If he is an ordinary warrior among the humans, Kupa, the realm of the gods that you mentioned, will not be able to remain mysterious for long. There are less than 10 Radiant Knights of his level in the entire continent. His strength is close to that of swordsmen's. Although I don't know much about the continent's martial arts world, but until now, that wandering gilded blade is the third swordsman I have seen. What kind of position do you think he has among the human warriors?" Garamandes chuckled and said, "If that is the case, the caravan he led just now must have transported a lot of good stuff. Otherwise, why would swordsmen be mobilized?" Nian Bing nodded and said, "I'm afraid so. Being a mercenary is not a noble occupation on the continent. Warriors with high martial arts would usually not join a mercenary group. Just now, he called himself the Blade King Mercenary Group. I think that might be a fake. As for what he was transporting, I can't guess. It should be very precious." Garamandes turned around and looked at the back of the caravan. "What a pity, what a pity. I'll give you some face this time. However, I still want to drink Ice Fire Level 8 seafood. You know that I love eating fish the most." "Sure, no problem. When we reach Allen City, I will definitely think of a way to let you eat your fill." As they got closer and closer to the Ottoman Empire's former capital, Allen City, the number of people on the road gradually increased. Most of them were poor people who always wore simple clothes. Most of them were disheveled and had a sallow complexion. Without a doubt, this was the result of war. As long as there was war, the unluckiest ones would naturally be the commoners. "Nian Bing, I'm hungry." Garamandes was like a child as he leaned close to Nian Bing. Nian Bing smiled bitterly and said, "Then you can eat me. Didn't you say that there would be no problem if I didn't eat for a few months? I think you're not hungry. You're just craving food." Garamandes chuckled and said, "You know me so well. Anyway, it's fine as long as you help me solve the problem. How about this? I'll help you catch some wild beasts, and you roast them for me to eat." Nian Bing shook her head and said, "No need. We should be reaching Allen soon. When we get there, let's eat something first. Just bear with it for a while." "Bear with it? I, Si Ching, have been bearing with it for 3 days. You, on the other hand, are satisfied with just some dry rations every day. As for me, I haven't even eaten anything edible. Allen City, right? Let's go now." A familiar yet incomprehensible incantation sounded beside Nian Bing. Garamandes was completely oblivious to the fact that there were many commoners around him. Under the cover of the silver light, he and Nian Bing's bodies disappeared in a flash. "This is the right direction, right?" Garamandes' voice sounded beside Nian Bing's ear. Nian Bing discovered that she was currently in a strange space. Everything around her was silver, and nothing could be seen. "How would I know? I can't even see clearly right now." Garamandes chuckled and said, "It should be right. However, I've been using spatial magic for a long time, so I'm a little rusty. I hope we're not in the wrong place." With a flash of silver light, the surrounding scenery appeared. Nian Bing was surprised to find that there was actually nothing around her other than Garamandes. She subconsciously looked down and was stunned for a moment. In the next moment, a strong feeling of weightlessness spread throughout her body. Bang! She fell heavily to the ground, scaring the surrounding pedestrians and causing them to scatter in all directions. All of them looked at her in shock. After falling heavily, her entire body felt like it was falling apart. Nian Bing jumped up from the ground and cursed loudly. "Garamandes, you bastard! What kind of lousy magic is this?" The silver light once again wrapped around Nian Bing's body. Under the shocked gazes of the surrounding people, she disappeared into thin air. When she reappeared, she was already in a deserted corner. Garamandes appeared in front of her and chuckled. "Sorry, my mistake. I forgot that you can't fly, so I teleported you into the sky. Fortunately, you won't die from a height of 10 zhang. It's hard to say if you want to walk 100 zhang." It turned out that when Nian Bing discovered that there was nothing around her, she was suspended in midair. Once she lost control of her spatial magic, her body would naturally fall. However, even she was very surprised. After falling from a height of 10 zhang, other than some pain all over her body, she didn't groan too badly. Is this still a human's body? Serves you right. Who asked you to not let me eat good food for the past few days? This is still considered light. Next time, I'll go higher. This should be the Allen City that you spoke of. You should think of a way to get me something to eat." Nian Bing calmed herself down and looked around. As expected, this was clearly a city. The architectural style of the city was completely different from the Ice Moon Empire. Most of the buildings in the Ice Moon Empire had pointed roofs, but here, there were very few tall buildings. Most of them were one-story houses. Looking around the corner, although there were many pedestrians on the road, there were also a frightening number of beggars. Almost every 3 or 4 zhang, there would be 1 or 2 beggars sitting on the ground begging. Is this the capital of the Ottoman Empire? How did it end up in such a state? Nian Bing didn't know that among the 5 empires of the Yangon continent, the Ottoman Empire was surrounded by 4 other empires. Other than the Ice Moon Empire, the Longmu Empire, Huarong Empire, and Kiru Empire all coveted it. They viewed the Ottoman Empire as the best piece of fat meat. However, the empires kept each other in check. Together with the Ice Moon Empire's inclination towards the Ottoman Empire didn't perish. However, the territory around it had decreased by a lot. Being harassed by the other 3 empires for many years, the Ottoman Empire focused most of its energy on war. Large amounts of the empire's resources were also used here, causing the development of the Ottoman Empire to slow down. Not to mention a powerful country like the Huarong Empire. Even the Ice Moon Empire was much stronger than it. Thus, Allen's wealth was differentiated by region. The closer to the 8 ice empires, the more prosperous it was. The closer to the south to the Huarong and Kiru empires, the more barren it was. Alin City was located in the center of the empire. Compared to Ulan City, its conditions were slightly inferior. It was just that the area it occupied was much larger. What do we eat? If there's anything good to eat, hurry up and bring me there. Garamandes wasn't a dragon that liked to wait. All right, eat. Eat until you die. I still have a dozen gold coins from that vagrant. It's enough for you to eat a few meals. Let's go and look for a restaurant. The two of them walked out from the corner. After identifying the direction, Nian Bing brought Garamandes to the center of Alin City. There should be a place to eat there. The closer they got to the center of Alin City, the fewer beggars there were. There were many shops in the surroundings. Although they weren't big, they still looked somewhat prosperous. After walking for a short distance, they finally saw a restaurant. Without waiting for Nian Bing to say anything, Garamandes had already walked over quickly. The restaurant looked ordinary from the outside. There wasn't even a receptionist for the six of them. When the two of them entered the restaurant, it was already close to noon. About 70% of the customers were already seated. Nian Bing pulled Garamandes to a table near the window. Garamandes had always been interested in human restaurants. He looked around, especially when he saw the food on the other tables. He was almost drooling. What would the two of you like to eat? A waiter walked over and asked politely. Nian Bing and Garamandes looked to be about the same age. Although their temperaments were different, the two of them were both handsome. Garamandes exuded a faint domineering aura. Nian Bing, on the other hand, was wearing ordinary clothes because she practiced magic. However, she exuded a high school aura. Garamandes said without hesitation, "Just serve whatever good food you have. It's enough for 10 people." 10 people? The waiter looked at him in surprise. Garamandes said impatiently, "Just serve when I tell you to. Hurry up. Are you afraid that we won't be able to pay?" The waiter nodded his head. He hurried over. Nian Bing said in a low voice, "Great Garamandes, when you eat later, please be more refined." He had a deep understanding of Garamandes's table manners. Before coming here, they had once eaten in a restaurant in a small town. Garamandes's almost crazy table manners had scared many people. What's there to be refined about? Eat your fill first. Garamandes wouldn't listen to Nian Bing. Nian Bing was helpless. He had to tell everyone the truth. He didn't know this big eater in front of him. However, his life seemed to be more important. He had to endure. He didn't say anything else and turned his attention to the side. At this moment, the guests at the table closest to them were talking. Their voices were very loud, and Nian Bing could hear them clearly. "Have you heard? Duke Bluefeather has already returned. Duke Bluefeather is back? Don't we need him to defend? Without him leading the army, what if Huarong and Kiru attack again?" Hearing these two sentences, Nian Bing couldn't help but perk up. Wasn't Duke Bluefeather's residence the target of Luo Ro's misfortune? Of course we don't need to defend. It's said that under the mediation of the Ice Moon Empire, the matter has been resolved. The Huarong Empire and the Kiru Empire both agreed not to invade our country for 3 years. Of course, our island also paid a heavy price. The Huarong Empire and the Kiru Empire are like a tiger and a wolf. Who knows how much of our country's resources they've stolen this time? Sigh, I knew the final result would be like this. It's either ceding land or paying reparations. Alland is almost finished. Shoo, lower your voice. It won't be good if the soldiers hear you. Sigh, our Ottoman Empire is still supported by Duke Bluefeather. If he didn't lead the Silver Feather Knights to fight desperately, Huarong and Kiru would have attacked long ago. We can't stay here anymore. If we can't, we'll all move to another place. That place is closer to the Ice Moon Empire. The Ice Moon Empire won't just watch as Alland is destroyed. If the Huarong Empire is a little stronger, the situation of the entire continent might change. You can't say that. I don't think the Ice Moon Empire has any good intentions. They only need to invite that Ice Goddess Priestess to help them. The Huarong Empire wouldn't dare to be so arrogant. Our Ottoman Empire has too few mages. We'll be bullied by the price. The Huarong and Kiru empires have already taken over so much land, yet they still want to expand. They're really ambitious. Actually, if Alland was ruled by Duke Bluefeather, we might be able to change the current situation. Unfortunately, Duke Bluefeather is too loyal to the royal family. It's almost impossible. Let's not talk about this anymore. Politics has nothing to do with us commoners. Let's drink. The conversation stopped for a moment. The guests at the table continued eating and drinking. From their words, it wasn't hard to tell the status of Duke Bluefeather in the Ottoman Empire. Nianbing thought to herself, Luo Ro, oh Luo Ro, you still expect the daughter of Duke Bluefeather to help you? The Ottoman Empire can't even take care of itself right now. Forget it. No matter what, I don't have to do what I promised. I've already completed my mission by sending the letter over. However, from the words of these people, it seems that this Duke Bluefeather is the commander of the Silver Feather Knights. Anti-Uruyan was protected by the Silver Feather Knights back then. Maybe this Duke even knows Anti-Uruyan. It would be great if I could meet her through him. After so many years, I wonder how Annie is doing now. Thinking of Uruyan's kind smile, Nianbing's heart couldn't help but warm up. He stood up and walked over to the table of guests. Facing a man in a white robe, he asked, Big brother, may I trouble you for a moment? The man in white was drinking when he heard Nianbing's voice. He couldn't help but look up. Nianbing's handsome appearance gave people a good impression. Coupled with his sincere and polite tone, the man in white asked, Little brother, what do you want to ask? Judging from your accent, you must be from another city. Nianbing nodded. I'm from the Ice Moon Empire. Can I ask how to get to Duke Bluefeather's residence? The man in white was obviously shocked. He sized up Nianbing. You want to find Duke Bluefeather? Little brother, I think you want to join the army. Then you should go to the military. Not just anyone can meet Duke Bluefeather. Nianbing put on a respectful expression and said, Duke Bluefeather has always been my idol and the person I respect the most. I just want to know where his residence is. Maybe I can wait outside his door and see him when he comes out. The man in white heard Nianbing's words, and his expression became much better. He nodded approvingly. Not bad. Duke Bluefeather can be said to be the guardian of our Auland Empire. Without him, the Ottoman Empire wouldn't even be able to maintain its current state. There are many young people like you. However, whether you can meet the Duke or not depends on your luck. The Duke's residence is in the south of the city, in Auland City. Apart from the palace, Duke Bluefeather's residence is the largest. You can find it anywhere in the south of the city. Nianbing smiled and said, Thank you for your guidance. With that, he returned to his seat. Nianbing, we didn't bring me to Auland City to eat good food, did you? Garamandi's dissatisfied voice sounded. Nianbing smiled and said, Of course. Why wouldn't it be? However, I have some personal matters to attend to. A friend asked me to deliver a letter. Don't worry, it won't take up too much time. Deliver a letter. That's fine, but you have to remember that you have my magic imprint on you. It's impossible for you to run away. Garamandi's eyes suddenly turned red. He looked at Nianbing with deep meaning, as if saying, Kid, I'll eat you up in the future. Nianbing shook his head helplessly and said in a low voice, It's my honor to be with the great Garamandis. Why would I run away? Don't worry. After eating, we'll find a place to stay. I'll deliver the letter in the afternoon. If you don't like it here, we'll go to the Huarong Empire tomorrow. The Huarong Empire is the strongest and most prosperous empire in the Yangon continent. There's no lack of good food there. 2 hours later, Nianbing walked out of the restaurant with Garamandis with a bitter face. Tui, what kind of shitty restaurant is this? The food is disgusting. Nianbing, your cooking is still better than theirs. Garamandis was extremely dissatisfied with the restaurant's food. Boss, you should hurry up and scold them. You didn't eat any less just now, and they were all the most expensive dishes. We only have 2 gold coins left, which is probably enough to stay in the restaurant. It seems that I really need to find a job to support you. Garamandis said as if it was a matter of course. Although it's disgusting, I still need to eat my fill. If you want to find a job, go ahead. As long as there's good food, I don't care where you stay. Hearing Nianbing say so, instead of getting angry, Nianbing was overjoyed. She lowered her head, and a light flashed in her eyes that Garamandis was unable to detect. The word use continuously reverberated in Nianbing's mind. Although Garamandis had high requirements for food, He did not have any particular preferences for accommodation. As long as he could find a bed to sleep on, he would be fine. After eating his fill, sleeping had always been one of his favorite things to do. The two found the cheapest inn and settled down. Garamandes went to sleep, while Nianbing used one of the 2 gold coins she had on her to buy the cheapest 10 blank magic scrolls in a magic shop. Selling magic scrolls was probably the fastest way to earn money. With the way Garamandes ate, there were probably not many people who could afford to support him. Nianbing's attainments in magic arrays had also greatly improved due to the improvement of the ice and fire homology. Although the success rate of producing blank magic scrolls in a magic scrolls was slightly lower, she only needed to produce a few ordinary tier 4 magic scrolls. Including the trigger effect, it was not a difficult task. This Allen city was truly poor. She would just sell a few magic scrolls for some money. It would be fine as long as she had enough to spend. It only took Nianbing an hour to craft a few scrolls. Aside from one that failed due to carelessness, Nianbing had successfully crafted 9 tier 4 trigger scrolls. Mandes's dragon snort was truly loud. Nianbing glanced at him before stealthily slipping out of the room. According to the information he had gathered, he headed towards the south of Allen City. There was no hurry to sell the magic scrolls. She would first deliver the letter. Just as the white-clothed man in the restaurant had said, finding the Duke of Bluefeather's mansion in Allen City was not a difficult task. After arriving at the southern part of the city, Nianbing only needed to ask one person to find her destination. 2 streets away, she could already see the 2-zhang tall crimson courtyard wall. The Duke of Bluefeather's mansion occupied a large area. The 2-zhang tall crimson courtyard wall was like a city wall. At the entrance, 16 silver feather knights dressed in silver light armor stood in 2 neat rows. The feathers on their helmets were all green, and each of them had their hands on their swords. Although their eyes were focused, Nianbing could clearly feel that they were constantly observing their surroundings. The moment there was any movement, these silver feather knights would be able to react quickly. 16 low-ranked silver feather knights. That was equivalent to 16 swordmaster level warriors, who said that the Ottoman Empire was weak. Just the 10,000 silver feather knights were probably only comparable to the Huarong Empire's order of the Flaming Lion. No wonder the commoners said that the Duke of Bluefeather was the protector of the Ottoman Empire. The silver feather knights were definitely comparable to an ordinary army of 200,000. Inside the Grand Duke's mansion, a handsome middle-aged man in his 40s was sitting behind the secretary's desk. His brows were furrowed, as if he was thinking about something troubling him. Although this person was sitting, he would inadvertently reveal a strong aura of agility and austere killing intent. The light in his eyes was constantly flashing, and the black robe on his body was unable to cover up his stalwart body. His hands on the desk were very unique. His palms were wide and thick, and his fingers were long and slender. Although the joints were not prominent, one could tell from the appearance that they were definitely a pair of very powerful hands. Outside the door, a person walked in. A gentle and pleasant voice sounded. "You're back. What did His Majesty say today?" The middle-aged man looked up. The person who walked in was a woman. She looked to be around 27 or 28 years old. She wore a light blue dress with beautiful patterns embroidered on it with silver thread. Her eyebrows were arched, and her nose was delicate. Her skin was as smooth as cream, and her long dark green hair draped over her back like a waterfall. It was tied up with a silver ring. Her blue eyes were crystal clear, and her beautiful face showed a bit of concern and worry. If Nianbing saw her, she might not be able to recognize her immediately. She was Yuruyan, the one who gave her the Tianhua token. 8 years had passed, but her appearance had not changed at all. Chapter 72. Ruyan, come here. When the middle-aged man saw Yuruyan, his furrowed brows immediately relaxed. A gentle smile appeared on his face, and the love in his eyes was clear. He reached out and hugged his beloved wife, letting her sit on his lap. Breathing in her familiar fragrance, the middle-aged man's heart calmed down. What's wrong? From the looks of it, it doesn't seem to be going well. Did His Majesty not approve your request for military funds? Yu Ruyan's eyes revealed a trace of worry. The middle-aged man shook his head and said, "How could that be? His Majesty has never had any objections to my requests for military funds. However, so what if the fund were approved? Right now, most of the southern regions of the empire are in a state of famine. If this continues, there will be unforeseen events. As the saying goes, when the people are rich, the country will be rich. I alone am not enough for the empire. Alland is so big, but there isn't a single person who can help His Majesty govern the empire. You also know that those despicable people in the court only know how to flatter him. If this continues, the empire will be no more." Yu Ruyan sighed softly and said, "Forget it. Lan Yu, no matter how much you worry, it's useless. The empire's drawbacks aren't formed in a day or two. You have to take care of your body and don't overwork yourself." Lan Yu took a deep breath and said, "I also want to rest. But can I rest? After this battle, 3,000 of the Silver Feather Knights will never see their loved ones again. The entire Silver Feather Knights only have 10,000 people. If the Huarong Empire is ruthless enough to send the Order of the Flaming Lion, I'm afraid that even I won't be able to withstand it. Although the Ice Moon Empire is on good terms with our empire, they won't sincerely help us. As time passes, if our empire still doesn't undergo any qualitative changes, I'm afraid." Yu Ruyan hugged her husband's neck and said, "All right, let's not talk about this anymore. Be happy. Oh, right, it's not all bad news recently. The Silver Feather Knights that I'm in charge of now have 5,000 men. 2,000 of them can go to the battlefield. Although their strength can't compare to your subordinates, who have gone through countless trials of iron and blood. However, I believe that as long as they train more, they will be able to make up for this loss. In fact, the Empire has no lack of knowledgeable people. A young brother and sister came a few days ago. The elder brother is an expert fighter. I think they can join the Silver Feather Knights." Lan Yu smiled and said, "I'm at ease with you. Forget it. Let's not talk about this. I've only been back for a few days and haven't spent time with you." Just as Yu Ruyan was about to say something, a respectful voice suddenly came from outside. "Reporting." Yu Ruyan frowned and asked, "What is it?" "Reporting to Madam, there's a young man outside the manor, saying that he is looking for Mississippi." Yu Ruyan and Lan Yu looked at each other in surprise. Yu Ruyan said, "Looking for Chun Chun? What?" Yu Ruyan stood up from Lan Yu's lap and said, "Bring him in. Come here to see me and the Duke." "Yes." Nian Bing stood at the entrance of the Duke's mansion. The 16 Silver Feather Knights stared at him with 32 pairs of eyes. It was an uncomfortable feeling. He had already shown them the bead given to him by Luo Ro, but the knights didn't let him in. Instead, they reported back to the mansion and sent someone to pass the message. The enormous vermilion door opened, and a servant in green clothes walked out. He glanced at Nian Bing and said, "Please come with me." Nian Bing heaved a sigh of relief. As long as he could deliver the letter, his mission would be considered complete. He then followed the servant into the Grand Duke's mansion under the watchful eyes of the 16 Silver Feather Knights who were in charge of guarding the mansion. The first thing Nian Bing saw when he entered was a spacious square. To be more accurate, it was a training ground. It occupied an area of about 2,000 square meters. In the center, there were more than 10 people fighting with each other. There were several weapon racks neatly placed next to the training ground. Dochi filled the area. From the looks of it, all of them were at least great sword masters, as expected of the Ottoman Empire's #1 military family. Although the way these warriors attacked was simple, their momentum was extremely strong. The fighting techniques they used were the most suitable for the battlefield. The Duke's mansion was very large. Going back and forth was like walking through a maze. The servant in green had a calm expression. He didn't say a word to Nian Bing and only led the way. After passing through 3 courtyards, the green-clothed servant brought Nian Bing to a row of houses and stopped. He said to Nian Bing, "Please wait for a moment." With that, he turned to the door and said, "Reporting to the Duke, I've brought him here." A deep and vigorous voice sounded, "Let him in." "Yes." The servant in green nodded and stepped aside to let him in. Nian Bing gestured for him to enter. Nian Bing didn't stand on ceremony and pushed open the door. Just as he stepped into the room, he saw Yu Ruyin standing beside the desk. Nian Bing's blood rushed to his head. His originally calm eyes were filled with emotion. He took a few steps to stand in front of Yu Ruyin. His body was slightly trembling. Yu Ruyin saw Nian Bing quickly walking towards her. A trace of vigilance rose in her heart. Her eyes flashed with a cold light as she shouted, "Stop!" Nearly 8 years had passed, and she hadn't changed much. However, Nian Bing had changed a lot. 8 years ago, Nian Bing was only a child. 8 years later, he had become a handsome young man. Adding on the changes in his figure, how could Yu Ruyin recognize him after 8 years? "Auntie, don't you recognize me?" Nian Bing knelt down on one knee and respectfully bowed to Yu Ruyin. His voice was trembling as tears flowed down his face. He never thought that he would be able to see the auntie he had been yearning for day and night. Yu Ruyin and Nian Bing looked at each other before turning to look at Nian Bing. She felt a sense of familiarity from Nian Bing's handsome face. She hesitated for a moment before asking, "You are?" "Mother, I once called you mother." As he spoke, Nian Bing pulled open the front of his shirt and pulled out the Hua Tian card. Yu Ruyin's body trembled. Her eyes were filled with surprise. She stepped forward and pulled Nian Bing up. Nian Bing was now half a head taller than her. She carefully looked at the handsome young man and said in surprise, "Are you that little fatso from the Ice Moon Empire 7 years ago?" You are." "I'm Nian Bing." "Auntie, you haven't changed at all. You're still as beautiful as ever." Nian Bing held Yu Ruyin's hand, his voice full of emotion. Aside from her own husband, any other man who wants to touch her would only have one result, death. But now that Yu Ruyin's hand was held by Nian Bing, her heart was filled with love. She didn't feel the slightest bit of blasphemy. The pure love in Nian Bing's eyes deeply infected her. A cough sounded. If the Duke of Blue Feather had a weakness, it would be jealousy. After all, he had such a beautiful wife. If it were anyone else, they wouldn't allow another man to get close to their wife, even if this handsome young man was less than half his wife's age. Still, the Duke's heart was filled with jealousy. "Ruyin, aren't you going to introduce me?" Nian Bing finally noticed that there was another person sitting next to her. The Duke of Blue Feather stood up. His height was about the same as Nian Bing's. Judging from his aura, Nian Bing immediately made a judgment. Retracting the emotions in her eyes, she respectfully said, "You must be the Duke of Blue Feather. Nice to meet you. I'm Nian Bing." Yu Ruyin took the initiative to hold Nian Bing's hand. "Blue Feather, do you remember 7 years ago when I gave the Hua Tian token to Chun Shan on the way back from seeing her teacher? This is Nian Bing. I didn't expect that after 7 years, Nian Bing would come looking for me. When he first saw me, he called me mother. I didn't expect him to be such a handsome young man." Blue Feather suddenly realized. "He's the little fatso you spoke of?" "Nian Bing, since you came looking for Ruyin, why do you have Chun Chen's token?" Nian Bing wiped away the tears on her face and smiled. "I didn't know Annie was here. I was asked by a friend to deliver a letter to your daughter." "You, an auntie you are." Yu Ruyin smiled faintly and said, "Silly boy, he's my master. The Duke's daughter you want to see is our daughter. Didn't you see Chin Chin back then?" Nian Bing finally understood and couldn't help but praise the Duke of Blue Feather's good fortune. "So that's how it is. Auntie, is Miss Chin Chun here? A friend of mine asked me to deliver this letter to her." The space ring on her hand emitted a faint silver light, and the letter Luo Ro gave her appeared out of thin air. Yu Ruyin took the letter and said in surprise, "Nian Bing, you're a magician?" Nian Bing smiled and nodded. "Yes." Yu Ruyin didn't open the letter and smiled. "That's good. Our All-in Empire is currently lacking in mages. Is your teacher that old man from back then? But I don't feel any magic fluctuations from him. Chin Chin isn't here. She's studying with her teacher and doesn't come back even once a year. I'll give this letter to her when she comes back this year." Nian Bing said, "He's not the teacher who taught me magic. Auntie, this letter is quite urgent. It's related to my friend's marriage. The sooner it's resolved, the better." Yu Ruyin frowned. "But this letter is for Chin Chun. I can't open it. Who asked you to deliver the letter?" Nian Bing said, It's the daughter of Ice Snow City's treasurer, Luo Ro. Yu Ruyan suddenly said, "It's that girl. I haven't seen her in a few years." When Chunshin met Luo Ro, it was the same year I met you. When we passed by Ice Snow City, we were treated with hospitality. Chunshun and Ruru hit it off at first sight and became good sisters. They even exchanged tokens with each other. Do you know why Ro Ro is here this time? Nianbing nodded and said, "I heard from Luo Ro that she's here because..." Then he recounted everything that Luo Ro told him in detail. After listening to Nianbing's explanation, Yu Ruyan smiled and said, "If that's the case, I understand Ro Ro's meaning." Duke Bluefeather said, "Our Ottoman Empire is facing internal and external troubles. Your Annie and I are very busy. This Miss Luo Ro is also married to the Ice Moon Empire's royal family. This matter is not easy to handle. After all, our energy is limited." What he said was the truth. He was already busy with national affairs. How could he care about these personal matters? Nianbing had already expected Duke Bluefeather's answer and didn't mind it. After all, he was just a messenger. Although he had a good impression of Luo Ro, they were just ordinary friends. He believed that with Luo Ro's intelligence, even without the help of Duke Bluefeather's family, she wouldn't compromise so easily. At this time, Urian suddenly smiled and looked at Bluefeather. This letter came at the right time. The problem you mentioned just now can be solved with this letter. Bluefeather's heart trembled. He was an expert in war. In terms of war, there were not many people in the continent who could compare. However, in terms of intelligence, he had always admired his wife. "Rian, what do you mean?" Ruyan smiled faintly and said, "Brother Yu, have you forgotten about this Lady Ruru that I mentioned to you before? When she first met our daughter, she was already quite famous in Ice Snow City. She was known for her intelligence. To a certain extent, her father's position today is mostly due to her efforts. This girl's intelligence is far above mine, especially when it comes to handling various affairs. She's an expert. Although her father is much weaker, he has a good understanding of financial matters. He is also a good person." After his wife's words, Bluefeather immediately understood and said happily, "If we secretly bring them to Alland and change their surnames for our use," Urian smiled and said, "It's good that you understand. What you need to do is to persuade His Majesty to put Ro Ro in an important position. In these years, although I rarely go to the Ice Moon Empire, I am still familiar with Ro Ro's situation. I can guarantee that if she helps His Majesty manage the various affairs of the Empire, it won't be long before the Empire shows a new face. Who said that women are inferior to men? We can't let go of a talent like Ro Ro. This is a good opportunity. Actually, this is probably the reason why Ro Ro asked Nianbing to send this letter. This girl is very smart. Since she doesn't want to marry the Prince of Ice Moon, she will naturally find a way out for herself. Their family isn't prosperous, only the father and daughter. Thus, the problem isn't difficult to solve. If it really doesn't work, I will go personally. Nianbing, don't worry, Annie will take care of this matter." Nianbing didn't know much about politics, but he was very smart. From the conversation between Yuruyan and her husband, he could already see some clues. He couldn't help but praise this anti-Yuruyan's foresight. Luo Ro's reputation as a wise woman wasn't easily obtained. If she were a man, she would have been put in an important position by the Ice Moon Empire. If Bluefeather led Luo Ro to the Ottoman Empire, as long as she didn't look down on her, because she was a woman, it wasn't impossible to improve the current situation of the Ottoman Empire. After all, the most important thing to the Ottoman Empire was talent. "Auntie, then I will leave this matter to you," Nianbing respectfully said. Yuruyan combed her dark green hair, looking very beautiful. "Nianbing, you came all the way here to deliver a letter to a friend. Why don't you stay here for a while?" "Oh, right, you still haven't told me who taught you magic," Nianbing said. "My teacher is Archmage Long Ji of the Ice Moon Empire's Magician Guild," Bluefeather said. "So if it's Long Ji, I know him. His level of magic is very high. Unfortunately, the Ice Moon Empire has the Ice God Tower and doesn't care much about the guild. Since you are his disciple, your magic must be quite good. Nianbing, do you have any family in the Ice Moon Empire?" Nianbing's heart trembled. After a while, he shook his head and said, I don't have any family anymore. Blue Feather smiled. Since you don't have anything to worry about and you are fated with Rian, why don't you stay in Allen City? The guild here is in need of people. I have been discussing with the Empire's Magician Guild to see if we can form a team of knights like the Flaming Lion. Nian Bing said, Your Grace, I'm afraid it won't be that easy. According to what I know, the members of the Order of the Flaming Lion are all proficient in fire magic. Even if they join the guild directly, they will need a long time to train together to perfect their fusion. Otherwise, it will be easy to accidentally injure their own troops. I respect you very much, but I still have a lot of things to do, so I can't stay. Blue Feather didn't mind Nian Bing's rejection and smiled. Then forget it. However, if you don't have a good time outside, or if the Ice Moon Empire's Magician Guild doesn't accept you, I welcome you to Allen City at any time. Since you have come from afar, stay with us for a few days and let us play host to you. Nian Bing shook his head and said, I still have friends waiting for me. I'm afraid I can't stay in Allen City any longer. Duke Month, on to you. I have a request that I hope you can agree to. Yuruyan smiled gently and said, If you have any requests, just tell me. Ani will do her best to satisfy you. Nian Bing's eyes were filled with emotion as she looked deeply at Yuruyan and said, Auntie, in my heart, I see you as my mother. Back then, when we met for the first time and weren't familiar with each other, you gave me the precious heavenly flower token. What happened next was the heavenly flower token in the process of my magic training. It used its gentle aura to pull me back from the danger of going berserk. You can say that you are my savior. I hope that you can give me a chance to repay you. One day, please give me 1 day to prepare. After 1 day, I hope to cook a meal for you, okay? Blue Feather and Yuruyan were stunned. Yuruyan thought she heard wrongly. Cook? Nian Bing, Ani doesn't understand what you mean. Nian Bing smiled confidently and said, Auntie, you will understand tomorrow. I will go back first and come back tomorrow. When the time comes, I can show the heavenly flower token and enter, right? Yuruyan nodded and said, Of course, but aren't you a magician? How did you become a chef? Nian Bing smiled and said, Auntie, I have always been a chef. Do you still remember the old man who was with me when we first met? He is the teacher who taught me cooking. To me, cooking and magic are equally important. Duke, Auntie, you farewell. Finished speaking, she bowed respectfully to the two and turned to leave. Seeing Nian Bing's back, Blue Feather frowned. Ruyan, what do you think of this young man? Are you sure he is the child you met at that time? Yuruyan nodded and said, It can't be wrong. Not only does he have the Heavenly Splendor token, he can also accurately recount the events of when we first met. Most importantly, the emotions in his eyes are the same as back then, without the slightest change. However, this child has already grown up and is much more rational than back then. Brother Yu, I still think this child is extraordinary and will have great achievements in the future. But I don't understand why he wants to be a chef. Blue Feather smiled. Rian, don't look down on any profession, even if it is a chef. Let's wait and see what kind of surprise he will bring us tomorrow. From his confident appearance, it is clear he is confident in his cooking skills. If he is really a talent, I hope you can use his feelings for you to keep him. Right now, our empire is lacking talents. Yuruyan frowned slightly and said, Brother Yu, how can you let me take advantage of Nianbing's innocent feelings? If he is willing to stay, then that is good. If not, then let's not force him, okay? Blue Feather laughed. It is my fault I misspoke. Let's do as you say. However, I can also feel that he is not ordinary. Especially his eyes, they are filled with wisdom. After leaving the Duke's mansion, Nian Bing did not return to the inn. Instead, he ran to the nearby magic shop and sold the 9 scrolls he had made. If he had not met Yuruyan, perhaps he would have only sold 3 or 4 scrolls. But now it was different. He wanted to let Yuruyan taste the delicacies he made. Therefore, he now needed more money to buy various precious ingredients. Out of the 9 magic scrolls, Nian Bing tested one on the spot and immediately sold the other 8 at a price of 250 gold coins each. After all, these magic scrolls that could protect one's life did not require any magic to activate. There was something that everyone wanted, especially nobles. Therefore, even though they were only Tier 4 magic scrolls, it was inevitable that they would be sold at a high price. From the magic shop, Nian Bing found out about the busiest area in All City. He took the 200 gold coins he got from selling the scrolls and bought a large amount of ingredients, as well as various seasonings and ingredients for cooking. The reason why he took a day to prepare was because seasonings were the most important in cooking. Seasonings could not only enhance the taste of the food, but also bring out the original taste of the food as long as they were used well. Truly good seasonings required a combination of different types of seasonings. This was a secret. After returning to the inn, Nian Bing carefully opened the door. Garamandi's dragon snoring showed no signs of weakening. Dragons were not only the strongest creatures on the continent, they were also the creatures that could sleep the best. She heaved a sigh of relief. Nian Bing secretly prayed that Garamandi's would sleep until she finished cooking for Yurian tomorrow. She took out bags of seasonings from her space ring. She then took out the porcelain bottles she had just bought and marked them. She then began to skillfully mix the various seasonings. To Nian Bing, there were only two things that could make him fully immerse himself in. One was the cultivation of magic, and the other was cooking. Cooking for Garamandi's could be said to be a form of torture. It was completely not something he was willing to do. In that state, although Nian Bing could still make delicious food, the quality of the food was much worse than his. Ever since leaving the Peach Blossom Forest, Nian Bing had never wanted to make a perfect meal as much as he did now. He was so focused on mixing the seasonings that he did not notice at all. Behind him, Garamandi's was snoring as he opened his eyes to look at him. A strange smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, and a few drops of dragon saliva dripped down. Mixing the seasonings took Nian Bing a full 2 hours. Looking at the nearly 30 porcelain bottles in front of him, Nian Bing put them one by one into his space ring. He used his magic to activate them. He tried to take out one porcelain bottle after another according to his purpose. He accurately grasped the position of the porcelain bottle in the space ring, as well as the mark on each porcelain bottle. He nodded in satisfaction. He fetched a basin of clear water and bought a clean towel from the inn. He took out his 4 peerless blades and wiped them clean little by little. He did not want to make a single mistake when he cooked for Yurian tomorrow. After finishing everything, Nian Bing sat cross-legged on the bed. Finally, he touched the warm, heavenly flower tablet on his chest and entered a state of meditation. After evolving, he no longer needed to carefully restrain the absorbed magic elements. Relying on the coordination of ice and fire, the two magic elements were absorbed at a faster speed than before. His mental strength was completely released. Very quickly, Nian Bing, who had abandoned all distracting thoughts, entered a state of deep meditation. His magic was advancing bit by bit. From the afternoon until the next morning, when the sunlight shone into the room, Nian Bing opened his eyes. At this time, even he did not notice that one of his azure blue eyes had become a scorching red, while the other was as clear as the blue sky. His magic moved with a thought, instantly flowing through his body. His whole body was filled with the aura of magic. It was so comfortable. Stretching his body, his gaze fell on Garamandi's, who was beside him. Garamandi's was still sleeping soundly. Everything was as beautiful as he had imagined. He quietly got out of bed. Although this inn was a bit simple, there was still a bathroom. Nian Bing happily took a bath. Getting rid of the last trace of irritation in his body, he took out the clothes that Xuejing had given him from the space ring. The white robe and silver coins were embroidered with a dragon pattern. There was not much embroidery, but played the role of a finishing touch, making the whole set of clothes luxurious and elegant. The belt at the waist was very simple. It was also white with a wide silver line on both sides. In the center of the belt, there was a milky white jade. Stroking the soft white clothes, Nian Bing could not help but think of Xuejing, who he had driven away. Jing, are you okay now? I hope you don't blame me. I also had no choice. Although your temper is a bit big, it does not affect that you are a good girl. I hope you can find your other half and live a happy life. Putting on this silver dragon white robe, coupled with Nian Bing's originally handsome appearance, his high school temperament was even more obvious. His blonde hair and white robe outlined his slender figure, and a pair of deep blue eyes like the ocean faintly shone. Taking a deep breath, Nian Bing strode out and left the inn. Just as Nian Bing walked out of the inn, Garamandes, who had been sleeping in the room, sat up from the bed. "Good boy. You actually want to make walnut cakes for others without calling me. Oof. I'll also go and have a meal." Nian Bing. "Oh, Nian Bing, do you think the spiritual imprint I left on you only knows your location?" He. Walking on the streets, Nian Bing felt more and more awkward because the passers-by would take a few careful glances at him, especially the young girls. Those looks made him feel uneasy. Is the Ottoman Empire so open? It seemed that he should have worn coarse cotton clothes. What can he do in this situation? He could only quicken his pace and arrive at the Duke's mansion as soon as possible. Showing the sky token, the silver feather knights at the gate happily let him in. Under the guidance of a servant, he walked towards the Duke's study. Usually, when the Duke was not in court, he would take care of his affairs in the study. Arriving at the door, he could hear a clear conversation from inside. "Duke, this is the news we sisters have received for the past half a year. Do you have any other instructions?" Duke Bluefeather replied, "It has been hard on you these past few days. There's only to go back this time. I still need you to carry out other tasks. Rest in the mansion for now." Upon hearing this, the servant who had brought Nian Bing into the residence had already stepped forward to report. He shouted from outside the door, "Duke, Sir Nian Bing is here. I'll let him in." Hearing the conversation from before, Nian Bing felt that the female voice was very familiar, as if he had heard it somewhere before, but it was not Urian's voice. While he was puzzled, the servant gestured for him to enter. Pushing the door open, he saw the Duke of Blue Feather sitting behind the desk like he did yesterday. Urian was standing beside him with a smile on her face. Two other women were standing respectfully in front of the desk. When they heard him enter, the two women subconsciously turned around to look at him. Nian Bing's eyes widened in surprise. "Ah, why are you here?" At the same time, they exclaimed, "Why are you here?" Chapter 73. Who were the two women that appeared in Duke Bluefeather's study to make Nian Bing so surprised? They were Ru Yi and Ru Ming, whom Nian Bing met in the brothel of Ice Orchid City a few months ago. After a moment of blankness, Nian Bing immediately understood the identity of the two sisters. He already knew that the sisters were spies sent by other countries to the Ice Moon Empire and the Ottoman Empire. Since they appeared in the residence of the head of the Ottoman Empire's military, it was obvious that they were the Duke of Blue Feather. As for the daughter of the benefactor, it should be Lan Shun, who was not in the residence. Now, he was only missing a certain someone. Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. The Duke of Blue Feather looked at the new Nian Bing in surprise and asked, "Do you know him?" Ru Yi coldly snorted. "Your Excellency, the strange young man I just told you about is him. The demon killer is also harmful to us because of him. Don't let him go and lure out the demon killer behind him." With that, she raised her hand and pulled out her sword. "Sister, he is not a bad person." Ru Ming quickly held her sister's hand. When she was reporting to the Duke, it was Ru Yi who was speaking. Ru Ming wanted to intervene several times, but couldn't find a chance. Ru Yi angrily said, "How can a man in a brothel be a good person? Get out of the way. If you didn't let him go that day, maybe I wouldn't have been humiliated by the demon killer." Blue Feather said in a deep voice, "Ru Yi, stop. Don't be presumptuous." Ru Yi might not listen to others, but her respect for Blue Feather was completely from the heart. She quickly withdrew her sword and retreated to the side. "I'm sorry, Your Excellency." Blue Feather's eyes turned to Nian Bing and frowned. "Young man, as a man, you could be romantic but not vulgar. In the future, it's better not to go to brothels. I want to know, what is the relationship between you and the demon killer mentioned by Ru Yi?" Nian Bing indifferently said, "I'm afraid what you want to know is not my relationship with him. I'm afraid you want to know the origin of the ice and fire magic. If someone else asked, I wouldn't say it, but you are Auntie Yu's husband. I don't want to hide it. Actually, I am a Masha envoy, which is also me. At that time, I only pretended to punish Miss Rui because she had indiscriminately tried to kill me. Frankly speaking, if it wasn't for Miss Ru Meng pleading for elder sister, perhaps she would have already died in my hands." Blue Feather's eyes lit up. You are Demon Killer Envoy. I hope you can explain. Ru Yi and Ru Ming's eyes were also filled with surprise. Nian Bing puffed out her chest and said coldly, I have nothing to explain on this matter, and I don't need to explain anything. Miss Ru Yi is your subordinate, so it's only right that you believe her words. At this moment, he felt as if his heart was being pierced by needles. The pain was unbearable because he saw coldness and a trace of desolate killing intent in the eyes of his most respected aunt, Yu Ruyan. Yes, although Auntie Yu has a very high position in my heart. But after all, I've only seen her twice in so many years. What right do I have to make her believe me? Nian Bing smiled, but the deep sadness in his eyes made Yu Ruyan's heart tremble. Nian Bing's heart was very, very cold. Ever since he left the peach blossom forest, he had always been vigilant and reserved towards everyone. Even Feng Nu was no exception. But after seeing Yu Ruyan yesterday, he finally let go. Losing his parents was the greatest pain in his heart. In his heart, Yu Ruyan was gentle and kind like a mother. Although he knew that it was normal for Yu Ruyan and Blue Feather to suspect him, the pain in his heart was still very strong. Taking a deep breath, he forced himself to calm down. He didn't even look at Ru Yi. Auntie, no matter what you think of me in my heart, you will always be someone I respect. I will leave, and I will never come back again. But I hope you can give me a chance to cook a meal for you. I will leave immediately. As he spoke, he took off the heavenly jade token that had never left his neck for more than 7 years. When he walked past Yu Ruyan, he took a deep look at the red gem on the jade token. With a sigh, he placed the heavenly jade token on the table. Yu Ruyan indifferently asked, Do you really have no explanation? Nian Bing shook his head. To you and the Duke, I am just an outsider. Our meeting that year could be said to be a kind of fate. Perhaps our fate has come to an end. Yu Ruyan's eyes were cold. Nian Bing, in my life, I hate fickle men the most, especially men who inflict pain on women for their own desires. I watched Rui grow up. She has a strong character and will never lie. Yes, I choose to believe her. You have a very good appearance, but if you use it to bully women, then you are worse than a dwarf with a congenital defect. You can go. I am not in the mood to eat right now, and I don't want to eat what you cook. Auntie, you really can't give me a chance to repay you? Nian Bing suddenly felt that his breathing was a little difficult, and his eyes were a little blurred. Yu Ruyan was just about to speak when the Duke of Blue Feather spoke up. Ruyan, let him do it. I think this child is not that kind of person. Maybe it was just a slip of the tongue. Yu Ruyan looked at her husband, then looked at Nian Bing. The coldness in her eyes faded a little. She snorted and didn't speak again. Nian Bing's expression was calm as she bowed to the Duke. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Can I trouble you to set up a stove in the martial arts field outside? If it is in the kitchen, it will not be easy to use. Just get a big table to put the food. I have already prepared the other ingredients in cabinets. Blue Feather nodded. Good. Rui, you go prepare according to Nian Bing's instructions. We will go to the martial arts field together. Rui nodded and gave Nian Bing a cold look before leaving the study. Nian Bing followed behind her. He didn't say anything to Rui. At this time, he didn't want to say anything. Besides, Rui is also a pitiful person. Seeing Nian Bing leave, Ru Ming was a little anxious. Duke, madam, you have all misunderstood. In fact, Nian Bing is not that kind of person. Blue Feather and Yu Ruyan were stunned at the same time. Yu Ruyan frowned. You mean Rui was lying to us just now? Ru Ming's whole body stiffened. No, actually, sister is just a little extreme. Then she told the story from beginning to end according to her own opinion. After hearing Ru Ming's words, Blue Feather frowned. No, from what I know, although Rui has a strong temperament, she is still a person who understands the big picture. Otherwise, I wouldn't let her be in charge of the Northern Intelligence System. I really can't believe that her personality will change so much. Ru Ming, are you hiding something from me? What happened to Rui? His wisdom has already seen some flaws. A person's personality change is definitely not without reason. Ru Ming knelt on the ground with a plop. Duke, madam, I can't say. This matter concerns sister's reputation. Sister is already very pitiful. Please don't pursue it, okay? Urian's whole body trembled, and her eyes flashed. I understand, so it was him. I was wondering why Rui changed a lot in these 2 years, and even took the initiative to ask for a transfer. Humph, I won't forgive that kid. Rumeng was shocked and hurriedly said, Madam, in fact, this matter can't be completely blamed on Brother Lan's son. He also has his own difficulties, emotional matters. Just as she said this, she suddenly noticed a change in Urian's eyes. Only then did she realize that she was fooled. Madam, Urian's body flashed with a layer of silver light. Lan's son. It's actually Lan's son. Good. You really hit it for me. Rumeng, tell me everything you know. Do you know that your sister treated Nian Bing's life like grass? If you don't tell me, I will punish her. As the wife of the Duke of Blue Feather, Urian was not comparable to a little girl like Rumeng. Rumeng finally understood the look in Nian Bing's eyes just now, and her heart was filled with regret. However, she urgently needed to know what had happened to Rui. Arriving at the training grounds, Nian Bing walked to a shady area and stood alone. Today, no one was practicing martial arts here, and the training grounds were empty. Only the servants of the Duke's mansion would occasionally pass by. He suddenly recalled what Cha Ji had said to him when he was teaching him culinary skills. At that time, Cha Ji had said that there was a very important thing that an ordinary chef had to pay attention to during the process of cooking, and that was to control their own emotions. When cooking, they should try their best not to let their emotions affect their culinary skills, so that they could fully display their own skills. However, when a chef's skills reached the pinnacle, it was the exact opposite when it came to emotions. Instead of controlling them, one had to fully express their emotions and use their emotions to influence the food they made. For a top-notch chef, food made with different emotions could taste different even if it was the same dish. Emotions were what a top-notch chef needed to learn the most. Right now, his heart was filled with sorrow. What kind of dish could he make? He didn't know, and he didn't know either. He took a deep breath and let out a long sigh. Anyway, after this meal, his relationship with Urian would come to an end, and they would have nothing to do with each other in the future. Brother, I don't think I've seen you before. A gentle voice sounded from behind him. Nian Bing's whole body shook. He was so careless that he didn't even notice that someone had approached him. He was too careless. Turning around, he saw a young man wearing a blue warrior's uniform with a long sword hanging from his waist. This person was very handsome, and his body exuded an exuberant heroic spirit. It was easy to see that he was at least a great swordsman or even a martial artist. Hello, I've just arrived at the Duke's mansion. Nian Bing's reply was calm and polite. When the blue-clothed warrior saw Nian Bing's appearance, his eyes couldn't help but flash with surprise. He had always prided himself on his appearance, but compared to the blonde-haired, silver-clothed youth in front of him, he paled in comparison. Brother, you're so charming. My name is Lan's son, and I'm the Duke's bodyguard. How may I address you? Why have you come to the Duke's mansion? Nian Bing smiled calmly and said, My name is Nian Bing, and I'm the chef who came to cook for the Duke and Duchess. Chef? Lan's son's eyes shone with surprise. He sized up Nian Bing and asked with a strange expression, You're a chef? Nian Bing smiled and said, What? Don't I look like one? I'll prove it in a moment. Just as he said this, he had already brought her people to the practice field. She was instructing the servants to set up the stove. When she raised her head, she inadvertently saw Nian Bing and Lan's son together. A layer of frost appeared on her face as she cursed in a low voice. Birds of a feather flocked together. Nian Bing wasn't far from the center of the practice field. In addition, after eating so many iron thread snake gallbladders, his hearing and eyesight had greatly improved. When he heard this, he couldn't help but look at Lan's son. At this time, Lan's son's expression changed. His black eyes revealed a complicated expression. You're the man who let Miss Rui down? Nian Bing's voice was even colder. His relationship with Urian had become so tense because of what Rui had said to the Duke. And Rui's change was because of that heartless man. Lan's son's expression changed. What are you saying? I've never let Rui down. She was the one who insisted on leaving me. It seems like you know quite a lot. Nian Bing was a little surprised. You've never let Rui down? Then why did I hear that you let her down for an even prettier girl? Lan's son's eyes revealed a trace of bitterness. I don't know what Ru Yi said to you, but my feelings for Ru Yi are absolutely true. Sigh. Ru Yi is good at everything, but she's too stubborn. Nian Bing continued to ask, since you were together with Ru Yi back then, why did you try to court another girl? Lan Sun frowned. Court her? It seems that Ru Yi still doesn't believe me. That's right. I used to like Miss Chun, but when I was at my lowest point, Ru Yi walked into my world. It was her meticulous care that helped me recover from my heartbreak. Only then did I realize that she was the most suitable woman for me. So, we were together. I truly loved her. At the same time, I recognized my position. Even if we don't talk about status, just her character and appearance were far from my match. So, I let go of my past feelings long ago. After Miss Chun returned from her master's residence, I could already see her as a younger sister. The Duke raised us orphans since we were young. As his bodyguard, I was concerned about Miss Chen's daily life and made all kinds of arrangements for her. What was wrong with that? In the past, I was the one who did all the work. But Ru Yi didn't understand. She thought that my feelings for Miss Chun had rekindled and that I was interested in her. No matter how I explained, she wouldn't listen. Every day, she would pester me and argue with me. I am a man, and I still have a lot of things to do. One day, I was really annoyed by her pestering, so I said a few hurtful words to her. As a result, the next day, she asked the Duke for a transfer and refused to talk to me anymore. Sigh, I was too impulsive back then. Although Ru Yi is a girl, she's very stubborn. I tried all kinds of ways to get close to her, but she was always like an iceberg. Nian Bing stared at Lan Sun with wide eyes. She couldn't be so unlucky, right? She actually became the victim of a misunderstanding. Brother Lan, when you hurt Miss Ru Yi, did you tell her that you only had lust for her? That Miss Ru Yi was only a substitute for Miss Chun, and that you only loved Miss Chun. Lan Sun's eyes widened. That can't be. You even know this. Tell me, what's your relationship with Ru Yi? Seeing Lan Sun's unkind expression, Nian Bing hurriedly said, I have nothing to do with Miss Ru Yi. Mr. Meng told me all this. Brother Lan, how could you say that back then? Don't you know how much it hurts a girl? Lan Sun sighed in relief. Do you think I wanted to say that? But Ru Yi's parents died when she was young. She's too self-conscious. She likes to think the worst of everything. Ever since we started fighting, she would ask me every day if I was with her because she slept with me. She would ask me if I still loved Miss Chun and if I saw her as a substitute. Think about it. I work so much every day, and she pesters me every day. How can I stand it? That day, I was blinded by anger, so I went along with her and said those words out of anger. Now, Nian Bing understood everything. So Lan Sun wasn't a heartless person. The real problem was Ru Yi. She patted Lan Sun's shoulder and said, Then do you still like Ru Yi? Lan Sun said bitterly, If I didn't like her, would I be in so much pain? As the saying goes, a day together as husband and wife means endless devotion for the rest of your life. We've already done it as husband and wife. I truly love her. How can I not worry about her? Nian Bing nodded and said, Since you truly love her, then take out your courage. As the saying goes, the deeper the love, the deeper the hatred. The fact that Ru Yi still hates you proves that she can't forget you. Since that's the case, you have a lot of opportunities. It all depends on whether you can grasp them. She's had low self-esteem since she was young. She needs your patience to gradually change. I think you two must have had too little interaction in the past. That's why there's a crisis of distrust. You're a man. Take the initiative. Lan Sun nodded and smiled. I think so too. This time, Ru Yi finally came back. I've already decided that no matter what, I'm going to make her stay this time. Brother, although this is the first time we've met, we hit it off very well. Thank you for your help. Sigh, but now I don't know what's the best time to get close to her. Nian Bing smiled and shook her head. Brother Lan, you're welcome. Actually, it's not hard to find the right time. If you want Ru Yi to change her mind, the first thing you need to do is get the support of the Duke and Duchess. I can tell that they're the people Ru Yi respects the most. Since you decided to be with Ru Yi, why don't you start with the Duke and Duchess? Hearing Nian Bing's words, Lan Sun's eyes lit up. He slapped his thigh. That's right. Why didn't I think of that? Nian Bing, you've really woken me up from my days. All right, I'll go ask the Duke for her hand in marriage. As long as the Duke agrees to our marriage, everything will be much easier." With that, he turned to leave. "What's the rush?" Nian Bing grabbed Lan's son. "The Duke and Duchess will be here soon to taste my cooking. Isn't it better if you ask for her hand in front of Rui? It'll show your sincerity. And look, they're here." At that moment, Duke Bluefeather, Yu Ruyin, and Ru Meng arrived at the training ground from the rear courtyard. Bluefeather and Yu Ruyin's expressions were unusually gloomy. Ru Meng, on the other hand, had her head lowered. She looked troubled. Nian Bing didn't know that her misunderstanding had been cleared up. When she saw their expressions, her heart sank. She nudged Lan's son. "What are you waiting for?" Lan's son only had Ru Yi on his mind. He didn't notice the Duke and Duchess Bluefeather's expressions. When Nian Bing nudged him, he hurried over to them. Yu Ruyin had a belly full of anger, but she had nowhere to vent it. She felt someone approaching, and when she looked over, she saw that it was Lan's son, whom she had been looking for. She was about to speak when Lan's son knelt on the ground. "Lord Duke, Duchess, Lan's son has something to report." Lan Yu raised his hand to stop Yu Ruyin, who was about to explode, and said indifferently, "What is it? Just say it." Lan's son swallowed his saliva and glanced at Ru Yi. "Your Excellency Duke, Lan's son has been taught by you and your wife. That's how I am today. Although Lan's son knows I'm not worthy, I've always treated you as my father. There's something I haven't reported to you and your wife. Actually, 3 years ago, I became friends with Ru Yi. I hope that your Excellency Duke and your wife can allow me to take Ru Yi as my wife. My feelings for Ru Yi are sincere." Lan's son respectfully kowtowed 3 times. Lan Yu and Yu Ruyin's eyes, which were originally filled with anger, were instantly filled with shock. Ru Meng, who had her head lowered, raised her head and looked at Lan's son, who was kneeling on the ground, in astonishment. None of them had thought that Lan's son would say such a thing at this moment. Rui, who was standing not far away, stiffened and her gaze instantly became lifeless. Lan Yu's state of mind was the most stable. He calmly asked, "You want to marry Rui?" Lan's son nodded firmly. "Your Excellency Duke, please grant my wish." Bluefeather frowned. "As far as I know, your relationship with Ru Yi isn't as simple as just being friends. Ru Yi, come here." Ru Yi snapped out her days. Her beautiful eyes revealed a complicated expression. She glanced at Lan's son and quickly walked over to Bluefeather. She respectfully said, "Your Excellency Duke, the kitchen table and stove are ready to be used at any time." Although she spoke of the task Bluefeather had given her, her voice was trembling uncontrollably. Bluefeather nodded. He turned to Nian Bing and smiled. "Little brother, please wait for a moment. I have some private matters to attend to." Nian Bing nodded. "Your Excellency Duke, there's no need to be so polite. You can talk about it. I'll start cooking now." He walked over to the kitchen table. Yu Ruyin wanted to say something, but when she saw Lan's son and Ru Yi, she held back. She gave her husband a look, indicating for him to get straight to the point. Bluefeather's voice deepened. "Lan's son, I want to hear your explanation of your relationship with Ru Yi." Ru Yi glared at her sister. "Your Excellency Duke, there's no need to explain anything. I have no relationship with Lan's son. I will never marry him. Ru Yi is willing to serve your Excellency Duke and Madam for the rest of my life. I will never marry. Please grant my wish." Her tone was resolute. Her voice was so cold that it seemed to freeze the surrounding air. Lan Sun's heart sank. He knew Ru Yi was stubborn, but he didn't expect her stubbornness to be even harder to understand after 2 years. Lan Yu smiled, and his voice became much gentler. "Silly girl, I raised you and Lan's son since you were young. Lan's son was right. I have always treated you as my own children. To me, you are not my subordinates, but my family. Child, do you think a father would be willing to watch his daughter grow old alone for the rest of her life? No, of course not. If that happened, it would be unbearable for a father. Even if you don't want to marry Lan's son, you don't have to be so resolute. I'll find you a good husband in the future." Hearing Bluefeather's kind words, Ru Yi's eyes reddened. She choked. "Thank you, Your Excellency Duke. Bluefeather stopped Ru Yi from speaking. He turned to Lan Sun and said coldly, "You don't need to explain now. I just want to hear about your relationship with Ru Yi. Speak. I believe you won't lie to me." Lan Sun was still kneeling. Without Bluefeather's permission, he would never stand up. He respectfully said, "Your Excellency Duke, Ru Yi and I have been friends since 3 years ago. I'm not afraid you'll laugh at me. Originally, I liked Miss Chin. Although I knew I wasn't worthy, my subconscious had always wanted a chance. So I've always tried my best." Bluefeather nodded. "We all know how much you care for Chin. There's no such thing as whether you're worthy or not. If Chin really likes you, I won't stop her. However, you know Chin's situation. Even Ruyin and I are worried about her life. It's hard to say what will happen in the future." Speaking until here, the Duke's face had a hint of sadness. Yu Ruyin helplessly shook her head. Whenever she thought of her daughter, she felt a little regretful. If it weren't for those people chasing after her, she wouldn't have given her daughter to that person as a disciple. Bluefeather continued, "But you should have felt it. Chin has always treated you as an older brother. Although she's usually cold, she's the closest to you in the family." Lan Sun said, "Your Excellency Duke, later on, I understood this problem. That day, Miss Chin told me the same thing. She said she's always treated me as an older brother. She also said she can't easily marry a man because of special reasons." Although her voice was cold, I could feel the sincerity in her heart. At that time, I felt like I was freed from the shackles of love. It was also from that moment on that I truly gave up on pursuing Miss Chin. Miss Chin was gone. The hope in my heart for so many years disappeared in a single day. Although I felt relieved, I was still filled with disappointment. It was at that time that Ru Yi walked into my world. She cared for me, accompanied me, and sat silently with me for an entire night. That night, we sat in silence. Although she didn't say anything, I could feel the emotions in her heart. Only then did I realize that the most suitable person for me was by my side. My heart was moved. My feelings for Miss Chun turned into that of a sibling. I faced my feelings for Ru Yi and began to pursue her. "Your Excellency Duke, Ru Yi can't marry anyone else. That's because we've already done the deed as husband and wife." Nian Bing had already walked to the kitchen table and was preparing to move. When she heard Lan Sun's explanation, she couldn't help but stop. She wanted to hear his explanation. As a bystander, he could see that Duke Bluefeather and Yu Ruyin already knew something. Ru Ming's expression was strange. It was very likely that she told them about what happened that day. As for their anger, it was clear that it was directed at Lan Sun. It seems that they already knew about Ru Yi and Lan Sun from Ru Ming. Lan Sun's luck was pretty good. Just as Duke Bluefeather was about to denounce him, he proposed marriage. Perhaps things will take a turn for the better. Right now, the key is still Ru Yi. But looking at her frozen expression, it won't be easy to change her mind. "Lan Sun, let's see what you can do." When Lan Sun said that he and Ru Yi had already done the deed as husband and wife, even though Duke Bluefeather and Yu Ruyin already knew, they couldn't help but turn pale. Lan Sun stole a glance at Ru Yi. He saw that her expression didn't change because of what he said. She continued to coldly watch everything as if she didn't hear him at all. Lan Sun sighed inwardly. He then repeated what he said to Nian Bing. He added even more details. As he narrated, his emotions were gradually influenced by his words. When he talked about the misunderstanding between him and Ru Yi's expression finally changed. The ice on her face turned into a volcanic eruption. She suddenly became incomparably agitated. "Nonsense. Back then, you clearly said that you've always treated me as a replacement. Now, you're saying that you're just saying that out of anger. You're clearly trying to use flowery words to deceive the Duke and Madam. Scram. I don't want to see you, and I definitely won't marry you." Chapter 74. Lan Sun's expression changed. "Rui, can't you calm down and think about it? I've waited for you for 2 years, hoping that you'd calm down. But you're still so stubborn. Do you think it's good for you to continue like this? Why can't you be more rational? The Rui I knew wasn't like this. Rui, we grew up together. Although I don't dare say that I'm a gentleman, I've never lied to the Duke. I can swear in front of you that I'm speaking the truth. Otherwise, may the heavens and earth destroy me." Ru-yi was stunned for a moment, but the anger in her eyes did not subside at all. Then what do you mean today? Anyway, I have nothing to do with you. You proposed to the Duke today. Aren't you deliberately insulting me? Lan Sun sighed. Rui, why would I think that? You've always held an important place in my heart. You're my lover. For 2 years, you were away on a mission. There wasn't a day when I didn't think of you. I proposed to the Duke because I love you. What do I have to do to make you believe that I'm sincere? Rui's heart trembled. She looked at Lan Sun's handsome and sincere face, and the anger on her face gradually disappeared. She stared at him blankly. She couldn't believe that it was all a misunderstanding. Lan Yu spoke up. Enough. You two don't have to say anymore. I understand. No matter what, it's Lan Sun's fault for using words to hurt Rui. Lan Sun, you've been with me for so many years. You know my temper. Rui, you've been wronged. Don't worry, I'll avenge you. How about this? Rui, from now on, I'll take you and Ru Meng as my goddaughters. Lan Sun hurt my daughter, so he must pay the price. Lan Sun, you don't have to explain anything. Rui went to the border for you for 2 years and suffered so much. She doesn't have any feelings for you now, but the hurt you've caused her can never be erased. I don't want to say anything else. You can end it yourself. What? 3 people cried out. One was Rui. The other 2 were Yu Ruyin and Yanbing. Yu Ruyin said anxiously, Brother Yu, you can't blame Lan Sun for this. He's been with you for so many years. Don't you know his temperament? How could you decide to punish him so hastily? Brother Yu. Yanbing walked over to Lan Sun's side. He was the one who advised Lan Sun to propose marriage to Blue Feather Duke. How could he not be anxious? Yes, Duke, even if Lan Sun was in the wrong, it shouldn't be to the point of death, right? How can you disregard human life like that? Duke Bluefeather's rash decision caused his impression of the Duke to plummet. Even his good impression of the Duke's mansion had disappeared. Ruyin, I can listen to you on other matters, but not this one. Duke Bluefeather's expression turned frosty. I can listen to you on other matters, but not this one. Do you think Lan Sun is right? Indeed, it was a misunderstanding. But, as a man, if he knew it was a misunderstanding but did not explain it to Rui, what did that mean? This showed that he had the intention to play with Rui and that he placed his dignity above all else. If he had explained it to Rui earlier and been patient with her, would she have suffered for the past 2 years? Rui is already pitiful enough. Now that she's been hurt like this, how can I tolerate this? We have wronged you before, but this is an internal matter of the Duke's mansion. Please don't interfere. Lan Sun, do it. Duke Bluefeather's tone was extremely resolute, but Nian Bing was surprised to find that there was a hint of a smile in his eyes. Was he hallucinating? No, it was definitely not an illusion. He really was smiling. Nian Bing's mind spun rapidly. In a flash, she understood what was going on. Glancing at Duke Bluefeather, she sighed and took a step back. Lan Sun raised his head to look at Bluefeather, then at Rui. His expression was unusually calm as he respectfully said, Your Lordship, Lan Sun was raised by you. My life is yours to begin with. Lan Sun will not disobey your orders. I only have one last request before I die. I hope you can agree to it. Lan Sun knelt on the ground. His courage to face death with equanimity impressed Nian Bing. Speak, Duke Bluefeather said indifferently. Since you've been with me for so many years, I'll do my best to help you. Lan Sun did not panic at the prospect of losing his life. When he heard Duke Bluefeather's agreement, his face lit up. Your Lordship, I truly do love Rui. You're right. I can't let go of my pride, which led to Rui's suffering over the past 2 years. It cast a shadow in her heart that she can't forget. Everything is my fault. I should be punished. My last request is that you take good care of Rui and find a good husband for her. Someone who can love and care for her. That way, even if I die, I can rest in peace. Your Lordship, Madam, please take care of yourselves. Lan Sun is gone. Even if I'm in hell, I'll pray for your safety. Lan Sun's sword left its scabbard in a flash of cold light. He didn't hesitate in the slightest as he gripped the hilt with both hands and brought it down on his neck with all his might. Under the sunlight, the sword glinted with a blinding light. Although Lan Sun didn't use his fighting aura, anyone could see that he was determined to die. Urian closed her eyes as tears streamed down her cheeks. Lan Sun was usually obedient to her, but if he was serious, Urian wouldn't object. She had watched Lan Sun grow up. Now that he was about to die, she couldn't bear it any longer. She raised her right hand, wanting to use her fighting aura to save him. To her, there wasn't much difference whether her eyes were open or closed. However, just as she was about to raise her hand, Duke Bluefeather grabbed it with both hands. Urian tried to struggle, but gave up immediately because she knew she didn't have enough time. Her heart throbbed. It was over. No! A demonic cry rang out. Urian opened her eyes to see Rui clutching Lan Sun's hand tightly. Her eyes were filled with grief. No! Don't die! Lan Sun was dejected. Rui, why do you have to do this? You should understand that to us, every word of the Grand Duke is an order. Don't stop me. Promise me that you'll live well. Rui ignored Lan Sun. She gripped his hand with all her might and turned to Duke Bluefeather. Duke Bluefeather, oh. No. Godfather, please let Lan Sun go. Bluefeather's voice was cold. Rui, he hurt you so deeply. How can he let you go? You're my daughter. No one can bully you. Get out of the way. Godfather will find you a good husband in the future. Rui shook her head vigorously, and her tears scattered in all directions. No, you're right. No, no. Godfather, I don't want anyone else. I only want Lan Sun. Please let him go. He's the only one I love in this life. Bluefeather's eyes flashed with a hint of a smile. Rui was too emotional to notice, and Lan Sun was too depressed to take his own life. Rui, didn't you say you don't love him anymore? You just said you'd never marry him. You should know that military orders are like mountains. I've already given the order. I can't take it back so easily. Rui knelt beside Bluefeather and sobbed. Godfather, I said those words out of anger. I've always loved Lan Sun. I've thought it through. It's all my fault. I was too extreme. If I hadn't been jealous, if I hadn't pressured Lan Sun, he wouldn't have said those words out of anger. Lan Sun isn't in the wrong. I'm the one in the wrong. Godfather, if you want to punish someone, punish me. I beg you, don't kill Lan Sun. He's a good person. He's been so loyal to you. Even if he hasn't done anything, he's done some hard work. I beg you. Bluefeather sighed. But the order has already been given. It can't be changed so easily. If you are willing to marry him, I will spare his life for the sake of him being my adopted son-in-law. Otherwise, he has no reason to continue to live. You are right. Rui, are you willing to marry Lan Sun? I'm willing. Godfather, I'm willing to marry him. Please don't kill him. Rui blurted out without thinking. Lan Sun loosened his grip on the sword. The sword fell to the ground with a clang. Urian looked at her husband in shock. Bluefeather laughed. That's right. It's good to be harmonious. You children only know how to make me worry. Now, Lan Sun, I'll betroth my precious daughter, Rui, to you. You have to take good care of her and love her. If you dare to bully her again, don't blame me for being rude. Although Lan Sun was willing to die for the Duke, even ants would drag out their lives, let alone humans. It would be best if he didn't die. Furthermore, he was able to reconcile with Rui. Everything was so wonderful. He couldn't believe that he had gone from great sorrow to great joy. However, his mind was still clear. He quickly took Rui's hand and bowed to Bluefeather. Ouch! The Duke, who had been so dignified just a moment ago, suddenly let out a cry. Both Lan Sun and Rui jumped up from the ground in fright. However, they saw Urian grabbing Bluefeather's ear. She said unkindly, All right, Bluefeather, you were acting just now, weren't you? You even tricked me. Tell me, what should I do if you made me cry so much? Gentle, Urian. Gentle. I know I was wrong. Listen to me. If I didn't act just now, how could I make Rui reveal her true feelings? Do you think I'd be willing to kill Lan Sun? Although both of them are in the wrong, Lan Sun is still a man. Letting him suffer a little in exchange for a beautiful wife is too good for him. Only then did Lan Sun and Rui react. They looked at each other and couldn't help but blush. They knelt on the ground again and said respectfully, Thank you, Duke. Urian let go of Bluefeather's hand. Are you still calling me Duke? You'll have to call me Godfather and Godmother from now on. I'm really happy that you two children could be together. Rise. Nian Bing, who was standing behind Lan Sun, felt a trace of envy. If only she could marry Feng Nu with the help of her elders. How wonderful would that be? Duke Bluefeather was indeed the most powerful person in the Ottoman Empire's military. No one could compare to his ability to control and correct the situation. If she hadn't seen through his eyes, she would have been fooled as well. His acting skills were truly superb. Rui and Lan Sun stood up. Rui shook off Lan Sun's hand. At this point, the knot in his heart had been untied. The coldness in his eyes had turned into a warm spring. He turned to Nianbing and said, "Mr. Nian, I'm sorry. I was too impulsive last time. I didn't understand the situation clearly and tried to kill you. Please forgive me. Actually, I can tell that you're not that kind of person. You just didn't want to admit defeat. I'm sorry." Nianbing smiled and said, "Although it feels bad to be wronged, it's all in the past. Let's forget about it. Congratulations to Miss Rui and Brother Lan Sun on your marriage. I don't have anything valuable on me. Today, I'm going to cook a meal for Auntie Yu. Come and have a taste. It'll be a congratulatory gift from me." Using a meal as a congratulatory gift was too cheap for ordinary people. No one present thought much of it. They only took it as Nianbing's goodwill. However, they didn't know that a meal from Nianbing would be worth more than 1,000 gold taels in the near future. Ice and fire chefs, cooking wasn't something that just anyone could taste. Yu Rian walked to Nianbing's side and said apologetically, "Nianbing, I've wronged you. It's Ani's fault. Can you forgive Ani?" Nianbing shook her head and smiled. "Auntie, you didn't do anything wrong. After all, we've only met twice. If it were me, I would also believe my own people. Ani, are you still willing to give me the heavenly flower token?" Facing this beautiful auntie, Nianbing didn't have any intention of blaming her. At this moment, he was only thinking, what's wrong with a mother blaming her child? Of course. Yu Rian took out the heavenly flower token and put it around Nianbing's neck again. The heavenly flower token carried Yu Rian's body temperature. Ling Nianbing's body and heart felt very comfortable. "Auntie, I'll cook for you now. It's about time for lunch. Please sit at the table for a while. I'll try to hurry." As she spoke, she walked towards the stove. Yu Rian and Lan Yu looked at each other and smiled. They were also very curious. If Nianbing insisted on cooking for them, what could the space make? The two of them led Lan Sun and the others to the table next to the stove and sat down. Rui had prepared 10 chairs earlier, so there were more than enough to spare. Lan Yu held Yu Rian's hand, while Lan Sun held Rui's hand. The 5 people's gazes were all focused on Nianbing. Taking a deep breath, Nianbing calmed himself down. At this moment, his heart was abnormally calm. With a wave of his right hand, 9 cucumbers appeared from his spatial ring and were placed on the chopping board. For today's meal, Nianbing had not only prepared the condiments, but he had also prepared the utensils to hold the dishes. A large plate with a diameter of 1 meter appeared along with 9 cucumbers. Nianbing held the plate in his left hand, and with a wave of his right hand, the proud heaven blade, which was like a pool of autumn water, appeared in his palm with the aura of the wind. He smiled at the people in front of the stove and said, "Auntie Yu, I'm sure all of you are thirsty. My first dish is the embodiment of ice. It's also one of my best ice dishes in the ice and fire 9 heavens cuisine, 9 pure divine dragon ice cloud hidden." The proud heaven blade stuck close to the table and gently lifted the 9 cucumbers at the same time. Nianbing placed a large plate with a diameter of 1 meter on the table. The 9 cucumbers fell to the ground with the same distance between them. The cucumbers were less than a foot long, so the 9 cucumbers looked a bit out of place on the meter-wide plate. Nianbing picked up a cucumber with lightning speed. Just as he was about to move the proud heaven blade in his right hand, the sound of hurried footsteps broke his concentration. A silver feather knight rushed in. Report. The knight knelt on one knee, diverting the attention of Duke Lan Yu and the others from Nianbing's dish. Lan Yu said, "Speak." "Duke Lan Yu, there are 4 people outside. They claim to be acquaintances of Madam. They want to see her." "Oh." Lan Yu was a bit surprised. Normally, people rarely came to see his wife. "What kind of people are they? What are their characteristics?" The knight replied respectfully. "For people, 2 men and 2 women. The 2 women were very young, and both of them were extremely beautiful. The two men were old men, and they looked to be in their 70s or 80s. What they had in common was their clothes. They were all dressed in red, and they looked like flames. The one who spoke was one of the women, and they should all be warriors. Each of them is carrying a long sword. I can't tell their level, but they shouldn't be weak. They have a dignified bearing. As expected of a silver feather knight, his answer was concise and described the basic characteristics of the other party. Yu Ruyan's expression changed, and she said to Nian Bing, "Looks like it wasn't easy to eat your meal. What's supposed to be here is finally here. Nian Bing, go to the back and rest. Annie needs to take care of something." Duke Lan Yu's expression changed at the same time. "Ruyan, you mean to say that there are people coming from that side?" Yu Ruyan's eyes flashed with cold light. "Yes, it's not necessarily them. Otherwise, which 70 or 80-year-old man would wear red? For people, I'll have to see who it is. Back then, all of our daughters were executed by them. It's time to settle the score. Brother Yu, let's have our people withdraw." Lan Yu nodded and said to the knight, "Bring those 4 people in at the same time. Pass down my orders. Without my permission, no matter what happens in the arena, no one is to disturb us." "Yes, your grace." The knight replied and got up to leave. Lan Yu turned to Lan Sun and Rui. "You're my children. You're not outsiders. It's time for you to see what the peak of a warrior is like. You and Nian Bing back to the wall. Remember, no matter what happens, don't make a move. Understand?" Lan Sun and the others followed Lan Yu's orders unconditionally. Lan Sun pulled Nian Bing, who was still wielding the proud heaven blade, to the side of the courtyard. Nian Bing faintly sensed that something was about to happen. Before retreating to the side, he didn't forget to put away his plate and cucumber. He was determined to cook for Yu Ruyan to repay her kindness. He wouldn't leave until he was done. The door opened, and a moment later, under the lead of the 4 silver feather knights, 4 people in red walked in. Just as the previous night had said, these 4 wore red shirts and pants. They also carried long swords on their backs. 2 old men walked in front. Both of them were tall and thin. Their white hair contrasted with their red clothes, making for a strange sight. Their bodies were straight, and an invisible aura emanated from them. One would need to look carefully to see that they were extraordinary. The 2 of them looked 80% similar. They seemed to be brothers. Their cold eyes locked onto Yu Ruyan as soon as they walked in. Behind the 2 old men, there were 2 young girls. The girl on the left had a head of long green hair, which complemented her red warrior outfit. She was very eye-catching. Although the red and green colors didn't match well, this girl had a different kind of charm. In addition to her dark green eyes, her beautiful face was like a gentle breeze. Her slender figure was very well proportioned, and her gait was very light. Her green hair and red clothes left a deep impression on others. Although she was very beautiful, she paled in comparison to the girl on the right. The girl on the right looked younger. Her pink hair was neatly combed behind her back, and in the middle of her long hair was tied with a blue hairband. Her blue eyes were as deep as the blue sky, and her slender figure was almost flawless. Among the people present, only Yu Ruyan could barely compare to her. Yu Ruyan had a bit more charm, but she lacked the youthful aura. After the 4 silver feather knights brought the 4 red-clothed people into the courtyard, they quietly retreated. Yu Ruyan took a few steps forward, and her beautiful eyes were filled with killing intent. Feng knew Nian Bing's pleasantly surprised voice broke the austere atmosphere in the martial arts field. The pink-haired girl in red clothes trembled. When she saw Nian Bing, she was so excited that her body flashed, and with a speed that was almost indiscernible to the naked eye, she rushed in front of Nian Bing. This girl was Feng Nu, who had just left the dragon cave not long ago. "Nian Bing, is it really you, Nian Bing?" Her originally calm face was already wet with tears. Her voice was choked with sobs, and her hands were tightly holding Nian Bing's hands. Her body was slightly trembling because of excitement. Feng Nu was excited, but how could Nian Bing not be? At this moment, there was no room for anyone else in his eyes. He had forgotten everything. He suddenly opened his arms and hugged Feng Nu tightly. That moving body was slightly trembling in his embrace. At this moment, Nian Bing felt that his heart was so full. There was only Feng Nu in his heart, and he couldn't suppress his emotions. He knew that in this world, Feng Nu was the first person he fell in love with. If it could be said that his feelings for the dragon spirit still contained pity, then his feelings for the phoenix maiden were pure love. Love without any reason. After the pain of being separated by life and death, whether it was Nian Bing or Feng Nu, both of them clearly saw each other. In their hearts, each other's silhouettes had become clearer and clearer. They hugged each other tightly, feeling each other's heartbeat. Ru Yin said coldly, "It seems that I'm not the only precedent for the Feng people. Elder Feng Su, Elder Feng Kong, your ability to control your people seems to be getting worse and worse." On the left, the elder Urian called Feng Su's eyes glowed brightly. It was a solid red light. "Feng Nu, what are you doing? Who is he?" Feng Nu's entire body shook. Only then did she remember where she was. She pushed Nian Bing away and looked back at Feng Su. "First Elder, Nian Bing is a friend of mine. Please listen to me." Feng Su's eyes burned. "Feng Nu, you should remember the rules of the clan. I don't need your explanation. Do it, kill him." "Dang, nothing happened." Yu Rian yelled. "Feng Su, don't forget that this isn't Feng Chi Mountain. It's my husband's Duke Manor. If you dare to kill people here, don't blame me for being rude to the Feng people." Feng Su said coldly, "Little Yin, when your father passed away, he gave you to us to raise. We raised you and taught you the secret arts of the Feng people. However, you betrayed the faith of the Feng people and married a human. Today, let alone that brat, even you and your husband won't be spared. Feng Nu, aren't you going to do it?" From a moment Feng Nu left his arms, Nian Bing had already woken up. He carefully observed the situation in the arena and listened to the conversation between Yu Ruyan and Feng Su. He immediately understood many things. His respected Aunt Yu Ruyan was clearly from the Feng people like Feng Nu. She left the Feng people because of Duke Bluefeather. And now, the elder of the Feng people was here to cause trouble for her. That elder Feng Su actually wanted Feng Nu to kill him. How laughable. He smiled and looked at Feng Nu. "Will you kill me?" Feng Nu's expression changed. She suddenly flashed and appeared in front of Nian Bing. She pressed her palm against Nian Bing's chest. Nian Bing felt a scorching current wrap around his body. He flew into the air. At the same time, Feng Nu's voice sounded in his ears. "Hurry up and play dead. Otherwise, the elder won't let you go. The Feng people aren't like the Fire Dragon clan. Don't come out again." Nian Bing's body slammed into the wall of the courtyard, and his body slowly slid down. At the moment of impact, the scorching hot air rushed out from his back and dissipated the impact like a cushion, leaving Nian Bing unharmed. Although Nian Bing was shocked, he was smart enough to follow Feng Nu's instructions. After sliding to the ground, he immediately closed his eyes and remained motionless. The silver airflow spread out like smoke. Suddenly, the Phoenix girl felt suffocated. Her heartbeat quickened. The parting heaven sword was unsheathed without any hesitation. She didn't even have the chance to turn around. It transformed into a fiery red shadow and tried to resist the attack that was as heavy as a mountain. Feng Su roared at the same time. "How dare you!" A few explosions sounded in the arena. Lan Yu stood in the middle of the arena, facing the two Feng people elders. His chest heaved and his breathing became uneven. Yu Rian had already come to Nian Bing's side and felt his pulse. Feng Nu's blood was in turmoil. He was brought back to Elder Feng Su's side. Both Elder Feng Su and Elder Feng Kong's expressions changed. They were shocked. Elder Feng Kong frowned. "Little Yin, we haven't seen each other for more than 10 years. You become quite strong, Little Yin." Yu Ruyan ignored Elder Feng Kong. Seeing that Nian Bing was fine, she instructed Lan Sun and the other two. "Protect Nian Bing. Remember the Duke's words. Don't interfere." With that, she flashed back to her husband's side. It has indeed been more than 10 years. If her daughters were still alive, they would be almost 19 years old now. Hearing Yu Ruyan's words, Lan Yu's eyes were filled with killing intent. The two Feng people elders couldn't help but be shocked by the bloody, killing intent that had been honed on the battlefield. Feng Su said coldly. It's a pity that she's already dead. Little Yin, you hid for many years and even had a child. Although you're the daughter of the previous head elder, the rules of the Feng people are not to be violated. Today, we're here to solve this problem. As long as you kill the man beside you and hand over your other daughter, not only can I allow you to return to the Feng people, I can also appoint you as an elder of the Feng people. You should know how great of an honor this is. Yu Rian's eyes flashed coldly. I do know. When I was young, it was my goal to become an elder of the Feng people. However, that's not important to me now. I only know that you're the enemies who killed my daughter. From the moment you cruelly killed my daughter, I no longer have anything to do with the Feng people. We're just enemies. On account of the fact that you raised me since I was young and taught me the skills of the phoenixes, I didn't seek revenge. I didn't expect you to come looking for trouble again. All right, since you want to settle it, I'll settle it together today. The four of you go ahead. Brother, you and I are enough to avenge our daughter. Yu Rian's slender white hand touched her waist, and a silver light appeared like a spirit snake. It was a soft sword about 3 feet long. The body of the sword was silver. Yu Rian's wrist shook slightly, and the soft sword became hard. The body of the sword emitted a silver light. It was a treasured sword. Lan Yu also moved. He also touched a soft sword, but his was blue. Compared to Yu Rian's silver sword, it was wider. The soft sword was straight and pointed at the 2 elders of the Feng people. Do it. Don't worry. Ruyan and I won't win with numbers. Feng Su, Feng Kong, and the elders' eyes flashed red. Since that's the case, there's no need to talk. Feng Nu, Feng Xiang, 9 leaves soaring to the sky. Fiery red, Duki filled the air. Feng Nu and the girl around the same age exuded a scorching 9-leaf Duki at the same time. The 2 girls shouted at the same time, and their delicate bodies soared into the sky, leaving behind a trail of fire. At the same time, Feng Su and Feng Kong also pulled out the fiery red longswords from their backs. Their Duki instantly turned silver. They stepped forward at the same time and made a simple chopping motion. Although the distance of the sword wasn't large, the sword made an ear-piercing sound. Clearly, their Duki had reached the limit. Chapter 75. Lan Sun and the other 2 stood in front of him while Nian Bing leaned against the wall. At this moment, he had secretly opened his eyes and saw Yu Ruyan and Lan Yu emitting a silver light at the same time. In addition to the 2 Feng people elders, they were clearly 4 swordsman-level warriors. Nian Bing groaned in his heart. Why did he always encounter such experts? At this moment, his heart was filled with a thirst for power. The 4 swords clashed without any fancy moves. Doqi broke through the air and soared into the sky. In an instant, the difference in strength was obvious. Lan Yu was forced back a step by Elder Feng Su, while Elder Feng Kong was forced back 2 steps by Yu Rian. It was obvious that the strongest of the 4 was the only peerless beauty. At this moment, Feng Nu and the green-haired Feng Nu had already pounced forward. When Feng Nu's parting heaven godly sword was about to reach Lan Yu, it instantly emitted a silver light. Lan Yu was obviously shocked. He twisted his soft sword and clashed with Feng Nu's attack. Feng Nu flew up with the help of the recoil and landed to the side. However, Feng Xiang's situation wasn't so easy. She was facing the strongest, Yu Ruyan. Yu Ruyan's killing intent surged, and she didn't have any intention of holding back. She didn't even look at Feng Xiang. She raised her left hand, and her silver dough qi condensed into the shape of a sword. When it collided with Feng Xiang's long sword, there was a metallic clang. Feng Xiang spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. If Elder Feng Kong hadn't distracted Yu Ruyan in time, she would have been severely injured. Lan Yu and Yu Ruyan didn't expect Feng Nu to be this strong. Although Lan Yu was able to send Feng Nu flying, he was also attacked by Elder Feng Su like a storm. Elder Feng Su let out a phoenix cry and attacked Lan Yu, who had just sent Feng Nu flying with his red longsword. The sound of clashing do qi and the sound of metal clashing could be heard continuously. Lan Yu grunted and took a few steps back. The front of his shirt was torn and there were traces of blood. His face was already a bit pale. Feng Su was about to continue his attack when a silver light suddenly appeared in front of him. Yu Ruyan's power was unleashed. With a circle of her soft sword, she actually trapped both Elder Feng Kong and Elder Feng Su in her do chi. Clashing sounds could be heard continuously. Facing two elders at the same time, Yu Ruyan didn't retreat at all. The situation was evenly matched. Not only did her strength surprise the two elders, even Yin Bing couldn't help but open his mouth in shock. He didn't expect the Annie he called mother to be this strong. One swordsman wasn't at a disadvantage against two swordsmen. Yu Ruyan's strength couldn't be described as strong. Rank didn't mean everything. Even people of the same rank could be divided into strong and weak. A thunderous roar suddenly rang out. Lan Yu, who had been injured earlier, suddenly changed. The warrior attire on his upper body was torn apart, revealing his firm muscles. The sword wound on his chest was clearly visible, but at this moment, his body was shining with a strange blue light. That bone-deep wound was healing at a rapid pace. Furthermore, Lan Yu's body was constantly expanding. His muscles were like granite. His eyes had turned completely blue, and his short hair was standing on end. His body was twice as big as before. Even his height had increased by a few centimeters. His handsome face was filled with a murderous aura, and his iron-like aura was constantly revolving around his body. "It's the body of the Thunder Dragon," Lan Sun whispered. Yin Bing stood up and whispered, "What's the body of the Thunder Dragon?" Lan Sun looked at Yin Bing, who had regained consciousness, in shock. However, he still explained, "Among the ancient dragons, there is no such thing as a Thunder Dragon. The Duke's Thunder Dragon body is actually a form of Berserk. It can also be said that it is an advanced form of Berserk. By stimulating the changes in the body, coupled with the changes in the combat aura and bloodline, the Duke's defense and body's recovery ability will increase by several times. His attacks will also become more ferocious. Although he will be weakened for a period of time afterwards, this is the strongest physique of a human warrior. The reason it's called the body of the Thunder Dragon is because of the powerful defense after the transformation. His muscles show the effects of dragon scales. The Duke's do chi is of the rare thunder attribute, so it's called the body of the Thunder Dragon. The biggest advantage of Berserk is his consciousness. There are very few normal Berserk warriors, and they can only maintain a certain level of consciousness after Berserk. It's very difficult for them to distinguish friend from foe. However, the Duke's body of the Thunder Dragon can maintain his consciousness. Its strength is beyond my comprehension." While Lan Sun was explaining, Lan Yu had already made his move. Although his do chi had turned blue from Swordsman Saint do chi, its power had multiplied. He abandoned his flexible sword and used his fists as his weapon. Every punch was like a thunderclap. 2 punches in a row forced Elder Feng Su and Elder Feng Kong back. Feng Su coldly said, "Good. Your body of the Thunder Dragon has entered a complete state. No wonder you're so famous in the Ottoman Empire." However, the real battle has only just begun. A loud phoenix cry came out of Feng Su's mouth. Then Feng Kong, Feng Nu, and Feng Xiang all let out the same cry. For phoenix cries intertwined with each other and soared into the sky. The first to change was Feng Xiang. She raised both her hands to her sides, as if flapping wings. Red do chi instantly expanded, and even the long sword in her hand turned golden red. Her burning red eyes were emotionless. In a flash, she appeared beside Lan Yu and Yu Ruyan. A trace of surprise appeared in Yu Ruyan's eyes. "You're only in your 20s, but you've already reached the first transformation of the Phoenix transformation. What a promising girl. Unfortunately, you're my enemy. When I was your age, I could only use Phoenix flames more easily than you. It seems you're this generation's Phoenix of hope for the Feng people." Feng Su sneered. "Lil Yin, you're wrong. Feng Xiang is only the protector of this generation's Phoenix of hope. The real Phoenix of hope is Feng Nu." As soon as he finished speaking, the pair of giant red wings that had left a deep impression on Yin Bing appeared, along with Feng Nu, Feng Su, and Feng Kong's golden eyes. The giant wings brought with them a scorching hot air. The powerful aura caused Yu Ruyan to take a step back and stand beside her husband. Royal wings. Yu Ruyan's eyes met with Feng Nu's golden eyes. Astonishment appeared in her eyes. You're this generation's phoenix of hope for the Feng people. How old are you this year? Feng Nu said coldly, I'm 19 this year. Trade or die. With a flash of red light, the parting heaven godly sword emitted a fiery light. The phoenix woman's body transformed into a red cloud as she spread her wings. At this moment, she really looked like a fiery phoenix as she charged towards Yuruyan. Nianbing couldn't help but be shocked. He had seen Feng Nu use royal wings before. At that time, Feng Nu had told him that she would need to rest for a long time to recover her strength. But now it seemed that not only had she recovered, she could even use the second transformation of the Phoenix transformation. Her attack and defense had both increased. What was going on? Yu Ruyan coldly snorted. Her figure was like a ghost as she took a step forward, leaving behind an afterimage. The flexible sword in her hand soared into the sky. She directly struck parting heaven godly sword in Feng Nu's hand. With a pu sound, Feng Nu flew back and was caught by Feng Xiang. Yu Rian's expression didn't change as she looked at the four enemies from the Feng people. The royal wings aren't enough to threaten me. Little girl, we're originally from the same clan. Do you really think that the clan's rules are correct? We're originally humans. Why can't we love humans? Feng Nu stabilized the churning blood in her body. When they fought before, she deeply felt Yu Ruyan's ocean-like Do Qi. Even with the help of the royal wings and phoenix flames, she still couldn't break through Yu Ruyan's defense. Hearing her words, Feng Nu couldn't help but steal a glance at Nianbing. Seeing him stand up again, she couldn't help but panic. Feng Su and Feng Kong roared at the same time. The royal wings on their backs instantly expanded, and the two of them flew up at the same time. The golden-red flames on their bodies rapidly burned, and their silver-white hair had already turned a fiery red. Their golden eyes shone brightly as they shouted at the same time, Phoenix, illusion, demon, body. Their originally corporeal bodies became illusory, as if they had merged with the flames. A scorching current swept out, and the monstrous flames gathered in the air to form a fiery tornado that directly attacked Yu Ruyan and Lan Yu. Just like her name, Yu Ruyan's body turned into a wisp of smoke. The soft sword in her hand trembled slightly. Lan Yu roared and punched out with both fists. Two streaks of azure light roared as they attacked the fiery tornado. The fiery tornado was greatly weakened amidst the thunderous rumbles. Just as it was about to reach Lan Yu, the silhouette blocked it like a breeze. Silver light instantly exploded, and the soft sword in Yu Ruyan's hand blossomed like a flower. Every strike produced a powerful explosion. The red and silver light instantly dazzled Nianbing and the others who were watching the battle. With a loud boom, cracks appeared on the ground with the battle as the center. The four of them separated. Yu Ruyan's voluptuous chest heaved up and down, and her clothes were a bit messy. Lan Yu supported her arm and barely managed to steady herself. Feng Su and Feng Kong were also forced back. They stood in a row with Feng Xiang, who was burning with phoenix flames, and Feng Nu, who was spreading her royal wings. Yu Ruyan snorted in disdain. Still no improvement. Although the two elders have cultivated for many years, their talents are limited. I'm afraid they can only reach the illusion demon body of the phoenix. Feng Su snorted coldly. Then what about you? If you don't use your phoenix transformation, you have no chance at all. Lil Yin, I'll give you one last chance. Kill the man beside you and come back with us. Yu Ruyan coldly snorted. That's impossible. Brother Yu is the person I love the most. If I could return with you all, I wouldn't have left with Brother Yu back then. Ever since you all killed my daughter, I no longer admit that I'm a member of the Phoenix clan. Seeing that you all raised me up, I've always tolerated it. But since you all insist on killing me, don't blame me for being impolite. I'll let you all see what the true Phoenix transformation is like. Without talent, without good comprehension, even if you all cultivated for twice as long as me, it's impossible for you to defeat me. As soon as she finished speaking, the silver light around her began to fluctuate like flames. Just like Feng Su and the others, the silver light flickered and turned into a golden red. This was the unique phoenix flame of the Feng people. A pair of giant wings broke out of her clothes and spread to both sides. In the blink of an eye, Urian had completed her second transformation. Her speed was so fast that the two Foam People elders couldn't help but change their expressions. Brother Yu, this is between me and the Foam People. Please don't interfere. Urian's voice was cold, but full of confidence. Lan Yu glanced at her with a complicated look in her eyes. However, her figure still flashed as she appeared in front of Nian Bing and the others and escaped from the battle. Feng Su was stunned. Lilin, you want to fight 1 against 4? Urian said proudly. What's wrong with that? Even if the 4 of you come to me together, you won't be my match. Flapping her wings lightly, her body floated up into the air. Her body swayed left and right as her illusory form appeared. It was the third transformation of the Phoenix clan, the illusory Phoenix demon body. Back then, when I left the Phoenix clan, I had only completed the second transformation of the Phoenix clan and possessed the royal feathers. At that time, I was far from being your opponent. Therefore, Brother Yu and I could only flee. Even after we had a daughter, we didn't dare to keep her by our side for fear of repeating the same mistake. But now it's different. Not only do I have the ability to protect my daughter, I also have the ability to destroy you. Elders, if I remember correctly, the most outstanding person in our clan had once cultivated the 5th transformation of the Phoenix clan. However, after hundreds of years, the royal members of the Phoenix clan had only managed to complete the 3rd transformation. Raising her head, Urian let out a long roar. Golden flames instantly engulfed a radius of 10 meters and soared into the sky. Under the red light, the clouds in the sky were completely dyed red. The edges of the red wings on her back shone with a faint golden light. Strangely, the flames didn't seem to be scorching hot at all. Only Feng Su and Feng Kong knew that this was because the flames were extremely condensed. There was no leakage of energy at all. Phoenix, Shadow, 3, Fun, with a flash of red light, 3 silhouettes appeared in the golden-red sea of flames. 3 completely identical illusory, jade-like smoke, with the same fiery red wings and the same golden eyes. The Phoenix Maiden knew that the 3rd transformation, the illusory Phoenix demonic body, was a preparation for the 4th transformation, the Phoenix Shadow, 3 Fissures. The 3 phantoms had the same powerful attack power. Going from the 3rd transformation to the 4th transformation was also a qualitative leap in the strength of the Phoenix clan. Feng Kong's voice trembled as he said, "The 4th transformation, it really is the 4th transformation. Little Yan, you're indeed the most outstanding talent of the Foam People. Give up everything you have in the human world. I'll ask Big Brother for mercy for you. As long as you're willing to come back with us, we won't kill your husband and daughter." The 3 Urians spoke at the same time. Elder Kong, you've always been the one who cared about me the most. You're also the most benevolent person in the clan. Thank you for your kindness, but I've said it before. Brother Yu is the person I love the most, and I'll never leave him. You don't understand. Feng Su said coldly. Brother Kong, why waste words with her? So what if it's the 4th transformation? She might not even be able to use a 1/3 of the Phoenix Shadow's power. Although we can't reach the 4th transformation, the 9 abandonment Do Chi we've cultivated for many years isn't something she can compare to. Once we use the illusory Phoenix demon body, her previous techniques will be useless. If we attack together, we'll definitely be able to destroy her. Urian coldly snorted. Is that what you think? If the 4th transformation doesn't work, then what about the 5th transformation? The golden red flames instantly retracted, and the golden red light slowly moved. The true color of a phoenix isn't red or gold. According to the legends, our ancestors had the head of a chicken, the neck of a snake, the chin of a swallow, the back of a turtle, the tail of a fish, and the feathers of a rainbow. 8 years ago, I finally broke through the 4th transformation and reached the 5th transformation. I'm afraid none of you could have imagined this. The first thing that changed was the wings on the backs of the 3 Urians. The original golden red light started to show 5-colored ripples, although it was still golden red as the foundation. However, the 5-colored wings looked much more beautiful. Urian flicked her wrist, and her silver sword was thrown to the side. The three bodies reached out their right hands at the same time, and five colored flames condensed in their hands. The five-colored light condensed into a feather-like object about a meter long. The three bodies and six wings flapped at the same time, and an impassioned voice resounded through the earth. Fifth transformation. Phoenix, Phoenix, wing five colors move. The hearts of Feng Su and the other three trembled at the same time. Feng Nu stared at the traitorous elder in front of her with wide eyes. Within the Phoenix clan, she was the youngest to have attained the royal wing transformation. However, she didn't have the slightest bit of confidence that she would be able to attain the fifth transformation of the Phoenix transformation at Urian's age. That dazzling, five-colored radiance, that abnormally powerful aura caused her to feel suffocated. Urian moved, and the three figures charged at the four people in front of her at the same time. The phoenix feather in her hand flashed as if it was flying through the nine heavens. The solid five-colored light swept towards the powerful enemies in front of her. At this critical moment, the two Feng people elders, Feng Su and Feng Kong, displayed their many years of cultivation. Although they were only at the third transformation, when their Duki completely erupted, they weren't weak at all. However, she was not weak at all. She barely blocked the two Yu Ruyan's attacks, while the other Yu Ruyan forced Phoenix Lady and Phoenix Xiang to retreat. For a moment, the eight figures were locked in a fierce battle. It was impossible to tell who was who. The surging aura was completely suppressed in this small space. The golden red light and the five-colored light intertwined and collided repeatedly, causing the ground to tremble. In the arena, the one with the most complicated feelings wasn't Lan Yu, but rather Nian Bing. Both sides of the battle had people he cared about the most. He was afraid that Feng Nu would hurt Feng Nu, but he was also afraid that Feng Nu and the others would hurt his aunt, who was like a mother to him. He subconsciously took a step forward. He muttered an incantation. A large hand appeared on Nian Bing's shoulder. I know you care about Ru Yin, but don't interfere. This is a grudge between Ru Yin and her people. I believe that Ru Yin has the strength to defeat them. Although the one holding Nian Bing down was Lan Yu, and he was in the state of berserk, he still revealed a faint smile on his face. But backslash, 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 no buts. Ru Yin is the most outstanding genius among the Feng people. At the same time, she is also the #1 expert in our Ottoman Empire. After the Feng people used the Phoenix transformation, even if I went up, I might not be able to help Ru Yin much. Just watch. I believe in Ru Yan's strength. Although Lan Yu said this, Nian Bing noticed that his firm hands had already clenched into fists. Should he really just watch and wait until the victor was decided? No matter which side was hurt, Nian Bing didn't want to see it. His eyes lit up, and he retreated to the side of the courtyard wall. Suddenly, he shouted, "Galamans, stop watching the show, come out and help me." Lan Yu and the others looked at Nian Bing in astonishment, not understanding what he was doing. Nian Bing didn't have any intention of stopping and continued to shout, "Galamans, stop hiding. I know you are here. Look, they've cracked the ground, and the stove over there is about to break. If you don't come out and help, I won't have a place to cook. Don't you want to eat the food I made with all my heart?" The 8 figures in the battle were all focused on their enemies, and no one paid attention to Nian Bing. Although Lan Yu, Lan Sun, and Ru Yi saw him shouting, none of them understood the meaning behind his words. At this time, a change occurred. A lazy voice came from all directions. "It's not just 1 meal, it's 3 meals. You have to remember that, Nian Bing brat." A red figure appeared like a ghost, and like a needle or a breeze, it rushed into the battle circle that even Lan Yu wasn't sure if he could break through. Violent bangs sounded one after another, and the 8 figures separated one by one after the red figure appeared. Everything was calm again. In the center of the previous battle, Galamans, dressed in red, floated with an evil smile on his face. He looked at the people around him. Yu Ruyan's 3 figures had merged back into one. Her face was very pale, and only half of the phoenix feather was left in her hand. On the other side, Feng Nu, Feng Xiang, Feng Su, and Feng Kong all had blood flowing from the corners of their mouths. Obviously, they were at a disadvantage in the battle just now. Garamanz's eyes finally landed on you, Ruyan. Little girl, that strike of yours hurt me so much. Tell me, how are you going to compensate me? Oh, right. And the rest of you, each more ruthless than the last. Do you want to break my bones? Whether it was you, Ruyan, Phoenix Maiden, or the others, their eyes were filled with astonishment. Only they, who were directly involved, understood what had just happened. In a fierce battle, they had already set up powerful Dookie around their bodies. When the five top masters of the Feng people were fighting with all their strength, even a god-tier master would have a hard time interfering. However, this red-clothed young man in front of them easily rushed into their battle circle. From the moment he appeared, his hands were crossed in front of his chest, and he didn't attack at all. What he did was to use his body to block all the attacks from Yuruyan and the others. Yuruyan and the others clearly felt that they weren't attacking a human body at all, but a solid mountain. However, even if it was a real mountain, it would probably turn into powder under their attacks. However, this person was fine. Not only was he fine, but he was also floating there and making sarcastic remarks. Lan Yu sucked in a cold breath. God-tier master. In his imagination, other than a god-tier master, no one could do what he just did. Galaman snorted and said, "What is a god-tier master? I don't care about this title." Yuruyan said coldly, "This is our business. What right do you have to interfere?" Galaman smiled. "I didn't interfere." He said, "I didn't interfere, I just stepped in. You little lousy birds' descendants seem to be stronger than the previous generations, especially you. You could have killed them long ago, but you hid your sixth transformation and didn't use it. Even if you don't use it, I remember that the little lousy birds' five-colored feathers have a move called the five-colored sky soar. Isn't it easy to kill them? But the sixth transformation is your limit. Unless you have a miracle, you will never be able to reach the seventh transformation. It doesn't matter if you fight, go outside and fight. Don't destroy the stove. Yin Bing, don't forget that you have to cook 3 meals for me wholeheartedly. But how did you know I followed you out? With your cultivation, there's no way you could have discovered me." Yuruyan was shocked that this unfathomable youth could see through her. Feng Su and the others were even more shocked. They knew the sixth transformation of the Phoenix transformation. Not only did it mean that Yuruyan had reached the half-Phoenix body, but it also meant that her strength was infinitely close to the god-tier master realm. As long as she broke through to the seventh transformation, she would be a true gentleman. It seemed that she had been holding back before. Otherwise, if she used the sixth transformation, they wouldn't have been able to block it. Nian Bing walked out with a smile. "Galamans, don't worry. I will do what I promised you. As for how I discovered you, it's too simple. Although I'm not strong enough to sense your presence, how could I not hear you swallowing your saliva so loudly when I was arranging the spices? I'm not deaf. Ain't you? Let's not fight anymore. Since you don't want to kill them, let them go." Garamantis was stunned for a moment, and his face turned red. He said to himself, "Is it really that loud?" Yuruyan forced herself to calm down and smiled. "Nian Bing, you're worried about your little girlfriend, aren't you?" As she spoke, she deliberately glanced at Feng Nu. Feng Nu blushed and lowered her head. Feng Su was furious. With a flick of his wrist, the long sword in his hand flashed and arrived at Nian Bing's chest. "Fuck, whoever dares to kill him is going against my stomach." That high-quality long sword somehow fell into Galaman's hands. At this time, Yuruyan stood in front of Nian Bing. Galamans fiddled with the long sword in his hand. With a casual wave, the long sword turned into molten iron and flowed to the ground. He looked coldly at Feng Su and the others. "Let me tell you, although Nian Bing isn't a strong person, he is my chef. He is under my protection. Whoever dares to touch him is going against my stomach. Whoever dares to touch my stomach is my greatest enemy. You have already attacked me. Don't blame me for not warning you. With your little strength, I can turn you into ashes with a raise of my hand." Feng Nu suddenly exclaimed, You are that dragon. How is this possible? How did you turn into a human?" From the moment Galamandes appeared, she felt that his voice was very familiar. In addition, Nian Bing called out Galamandes' name and the tone of Galamandes' voice. She finally confirmed that the red-robed man in front of her was the fire dragon in the cave. Only he could block their previous attack with his body. This could explain why Nianbing was here. Dragon, everyone exclaimed at the same time. Galamans said proudly, "That's right. I am the great fire dragon, King Galamans. All right, you little lousy birds can scram now. Nianbing, cook. I have slept for 2 days. I am very hungry." Feng Su looked at Galamans with uncertainty. He immediately determined that this was not a good place to stay. Even without this dragon, Yu Ruyin was not someone they could deal with. "Let's go." He took the lead and walked out. Feng Kong, Feng Xiang, and Feng Nu quickly followed behind him. Yu Ruyin did not stop them. She frowned as she watched them leave. Nianbing wanted to stop Feng Nu, but when he thought of their conversation and Feng Su's attitude towards him, he held himself back. He did not want to cause trouble for Feng Nu. All right. Let's go. Since I am your chef, I will help you clean up." Yellow light rose around Garamandes' body, and circles of yellow halos continued to merge into the earth. In the flickering light, the huge cracks from before slowly closed under the effect of the yellow light, and the earth returned to its original state in the shaking. Blue Feather exclaimed in a low voice, "Earth magic." Galamans clapped his hands and walked to a chair beside the table, as if nothing had happened. He patted his stomach and said, "I'm so hungry." Nianbing, hurry up. Yu Ruyin did not understand what was going on, but since Galamans admitted that he was a dragon, she could not be careless. As a member of the Feng people, she knew how powerful the dragons in Yangon were. Nianbing nodded and smiled. "This senior dragon likes your cooking so much, and he wants to try it too. Nianbing, I will have to trouble you." Chapter 76. Nianbing smiled and said, "What's the trouble, Auntie? I was going to cook for you anyway. Please take a seat. I'll be done in a moment." Reluctantly suppressing his concern for the Phoenix girl, he walked to the back of the stove. The stove had almost turned into charcoal during the battle between Yu Ruyin and the others. Fortunately, Garamandes had appeared in time and used the earth magic to restore the earth's calmness. At this time, Yu Ruyin had calmed down a lot, and her pale face had regained some color. She naturally walked to Garamandes and sat down beside him. Lan Yu removed the Thunder Dragon's constitution and put on a coat before sitting on the other side of Garamandes. He also had the Ru-Yi sisters sit beside him. Nianbing was about to move when Yu Ruyin suddenly said, "Nianbing, how do you know that Feng people girl?" Nianbing was stunned for a moment and said, "Are you talking about Feng Nu? We got to know each other in the Ice Moon Empire. It's been about half a year." Yu Ruyin said, "Then you also know that she's from the Feng people?" Nianbing nodded and said, "She just told me not long ago." She couldn't help but look at Garamandes. Garamandes snorted and said, "What are you looking at? Hurry up and cook." Yu Ruyin looked at Nianbing, said with deep meaning, "I can see that she cares a lot about you, and you seem to care a lot about her too. But there's something I have to tell you. The Feng people are not allowed to marry outsiders. You saw the situation just now. It was because I married Brother Yu that I attracted all this trouble. I don't regret it, but I have to remind you that if you really want to have a good relationship with that girl, you have to become stronger. Otherwise, the Feng people will not allow another Phoenix of Hope to marry a human. Why don't you cook first? We'll have a good chat after dinner." Nianbing was overjoyed. As an expert among the Feng people, if she could learn more about the Feng people from Auntie Yu, it would undoubtedly benefit her relationship with Feng Nu. Nodding slightly, Yang Kai took out the large plate with a diameter of 1 meter from his space ring. Upon seeing the plate, Garamandes' eyes lit up. "Good stuff, really good stuff. This is what I should use." Hee. Yu Ruyin looked at Garamandes and said with a smile, "Looking at your attire, you must be Lord Fire Dragon." Garamandes snorted and said, "It's the Fire Dragon King, not the Fire Dragon. You need to be clear about that." Yu Ruyin laughed in spite of herself. "It's the Fire Dragon King. I've long heard that the dragons are not only the most powerful race, but also the most arrogant race. It seems that it's not wrong at all. If there's a chance, I would like to exchange pointers with Lord Fire Dragon King." Garamandes looked at Yu Ruyin and said, "Exchange pointers? No need. Your level is too low. Unless you reach the 9th transformation, you don't have the strength to exchange pointers with me. However, Reaching the ninth transformation is not so easy. The strength of the ninth transformation is close to that of Lord Dragon God. You're still too far away. You should also know that the last transformation of the Phoenix transformation is the essence. Urian nodded and said, "Of course I know that. Unfortunately, even though I've reached the sixth transformation, the last three transformations are too difficult for me to complete. It's practically impossible for me to complete them. If I can reach the seventh transformation, I can actually transform into a phoenix. That way, even if I can't defeat you as the Dragon King, I can at least put up a fight. Although you are the Dragon King, and although you have an arrogant temperament, you have to admit that the phoenix is actually the most powerful creature on the continent." "Nonsense, the most powerful are us dragons. When did it become the little rotten bird?" Garamandes said angrily. Urian still had a smile on her face. "Is that really the case? If my ancestors could maintain the same numbers as the dragons, I don't know if you would still say such words. Lord Dragon God is indeed powerful, and my ancestor can't be compared to him. However, when you reach his level, you can no longer be described as a dragon. A real dragon like you can't compete with my ancestor. Even if you are the Dragon King, at most you can only be on par with the Phoenix transformation, right? The so-called nine transformation can exchange pointers with you. Seems like you're exaggerating a little." Garamandes' face turned red and said, "Exaggerating my ass. The little rotten bird's biggest advantage is that it's not afraid of dying together. With that skill, I'm naturally not its opponent. I'm not like him, who can't even be beaten to death." Urian didn't provoke Garamandes anymore. She turned her gaze to Nianbing and nodded at him with a smile. Nianbing listened to their words and suddenly realized that although Urian had already separated herself from the Foam People, she still considered herself a member of the Foam People. Otherwise, why would she argue with Garamandes, who is obviously much stronger than her, for the sake of the Foam People's dignity? Restraining his thoughts, Nianbing suddenly felt a little dejected. Compared to these strong people, the difference between him and them was really too big. If he wanted to avenge his parents, how long would he have to wait? 10 years, although it sounded very long. Would he really be able to reach the level where he could contend against the Ice Goddess in 10 years? That was just a dream, nothing more. Even Garamandes didn't have the confidence to defeat her, so what did he count for? Under the influence of the decadent feeling, the 9 cucumbers that he had just thrown into the air were slightly unbalanced when they landed on the plate. Garamandes' senses were very sharp. He immediately discovered that Nianbing's state was not right. He said with dissatisfaction, "Nianbing's stinking brat, I just finished helping you. You said that you would make delicious food for me with all your strength. Don't tell me you want to go back on your words?" Garamandes' words woke Nianbing up from his decadent state. A cold feeling spread from his brain to every part of his body. Nianbing, Nianbing, how can you be discouraged? No matter how strong the Ice Goddess Priestess was, she still cultivated with a human body to that extent. For father and mother, you have to be strong. Even if you know it's impossible, you still have to do it. Even if there's only 1 in 10,000 chance, you can't give up. This is your eternal goal. When he raised his head again, Nianbing's gaze had already changed. It became incomparably firm and incomparably persistent. He didn't say anything. His right hand directly lifted up the big plate, while his left hand pressed down on the stove. An ice-cold aura was emitted from the hollow of his palm under the effect of the frost technique. A circular block of ice immediately condensed on the stove. He quickly placed the plate on the ice, which happened to be in the center. With a twist of his right wrist, the wind of freedom softly hummed. The proud heaven blade had already appeared in his hand. The wind of freedom drifted under the guidance of the proud heaven blade. Nianbing's hand moved. With a light flick of his left hand's fingertips, a cucumber flew from the plate. As the cucumber continued to rise, Nianbing recalled Camel Chef Zi Xiu's jade screen condensation blade technique. At this very moment, his eyes were only focused on the cucumber flying in the air. When the cucumber had just flown to the highest point in the air, the proud heaven blade in his hand moved. A cyan light shone through the blade. That was the innate ability of the proud heaven blade. The airflow of the wind left a clear mark on the cucumber. However, in terms of strength, Nian Bing controlled it perfectly, just enough not to cut the cucumber in half. At the same time, under the effect of this blade, the originally falling cucumber paused in the air. Just at this moment, Nian Bing's second blade just happened to arrive. A strange scene occurred. The cucumber that was originally thrown up seemed to be suspended in midair. With the naked eye, one could only see that the cucumber was continuously growing. The thin, connected slices slowly floated towards the plate. In the blink of an eye, the tip of the cucumber had already reached the center of the plate. The cyan light faded, and the cucumber in midair unconsciously fell towards the plate. Nian Bing stretched out 2 fingers of his left hand and just happened to clip the end of the cucumber. With a twist of his wrist, the cyan cucumber accurately rotated 3 times and appeared steadily on the plate. Among them, the head of the cucumber happened to be in the middle of the plate, and the tail of the cucumber was sticking out of the plate. Good blade technique. Yu Ruyin and Lan Yu praised at almost the same time. They were both martial arts experts. Although they were confident that they could reach Nian Bing's level, they definitely couldn't cut the cucumber as evenly and completely as he did. Furthermore, they definitely couldn't cut the cucumber so evenly and completely without breaking. They could faintly sense that Nian Bing's left hand would release an icy stream of air every time he swung his blade, freezing the falling cucumber. Otherwise, the cucumber would have snapped long ago under the influence of gravity, since there was only a small gap between the 2 ends of the cucumber. Nian Bing didn't seem to hear anything. The second cucumber flew up into the air. 9 cucumbers flew up into the air 9 times. When everything was completed, the entire 1-meter-wide plate was covered in green cucumbers. The cyan light completely disappeared, and the proud heaven blade disappeared into the spatial ring. Looking at his masterpiece, Nian Bing couldn't help but feel a little excited. After these days of training, his body and magic had greatly improved, and his blade technique of cutting cucumbers had become even more skillful. No, this wasn't just because of his body and magic. His consciousness seemed to have improved as well. Although this kind of quick blade cutting cucumber couldn't compare to Zixio's Jade Curtain dual congealing Jade Curtain. After the battle with him, his cooking skills had greatly improved. Master was right. Reading 10,000 books was not as good as walking 10,000 miles. Only by constantly comparing notes with experts in cooking could his cooking skills reach a higher peak. He waved his right hand lightly. The ghost eagle turned into a blue light and jumped into his hand. The scene from a breeze room appeared in the Duke's mansion. Nian Bing used his thigh to support the edge of the stove. His body bent forward at a 90-degree angle, and with a twist of his left hand, the entire plate spun rapidly. At this moment, the ghost eagle had already turned into a ball of blue light in his 5 fingers. After seeing the 2 giant dragons of the wind and fire element, the impression of dragons in Nian Bing's mind was already deeply ingrained. He didn't hesitate too much. His hand, which was wrapped in that ball of blue light, had already touched the center of the plate. His hand moved slightly. Even experts like Garamandes and Yu Ruyin couldn't see clearly what he was doing. Nian Bing's left hand didn't remain idle. He kept accelerating the rotation of the plate. When the plate spun to its fastest speed, he actually closed his eyes. His hand that was pressed in the center of the plate finally moved again, slowly drawing circles on the plate. Each circle was slightly larger than the previous one. This time, Garamandes could see more clearly. He couldn't help but reveal a look of surprise in his eyes. This was because he discovered that for every inch Nian Bing's hand moved, there were at least 10 slashes on the rapidly spinning plate. The fragments flowed, but everything was so orderly. A faint icy mist rose from the plate, bringing with it the powdered cucumber fragments, forming a layer of green mist. It was so magical that it made people gasp in amazement. When Nian Bing's hand reached the outermost circle, the icy mist had already blocked everyone's view. This time, Nian Bing spun faster. After 3 circles, his body, which was bent at 90 degrees, was completely lifted up. Ghost Condor Concealment. A small porcelain bottle appeared in his hand without anyone noticing. With a flick of his wrist, the white powder merged into the plate that was completely enveloped by the green mist. His right hand waved again, and a lychee appeared in his hand. Nian Bing calmly peeled the lychee. Looking at the sparkling and translucent skin of the lychee, he smiled. Perfect. He could only use this word to describe his dish. Because of the melting of the ice in front of the plate, the stove became moist. Nian Bing's right hand grabbed the edge of the plate, and the rotation finally stopped. However, the green mist on top of the plate was still there, dense like a cloud. If one breathed in close, they would clearly feel a fresh and cold air, as if they were in the fields, would assail their nostrils. It was very comfortable. Holding the plate, Nian Bing came to the front of the table and carefully placed the large plate in the center. Garamandes said with some dissatisfaction, "What are you making? How can 9 cucumbers taste good? No matter how you make it, they're still just cucumbers." Nian Bing smiled and said, "Garamandes, let me teach you the first lesson of tasting food. A good food does not only have to taste good, but it also has to be distinguished from 5 aspects. That is color, fragrance, taste, meaning, and shape. At the same time, it has to be creative and creative. This kind of dish is a good dish. My 9 Azure Divine Dragon Bing Yun's concealment is such a dish. Oh, that's right, I still have to teach you something. Before you taste a dish, you must not easily determine whether it is good or bad. After all, you can only determine whether it is good after you eat it. Don't you think so?" Garamandes was stunned for a moment, but he still nodded subconsciously. Yu Ruyan couldn't help but click her tongue in wonder. For a proud dragon like Garamandes to be taught a lesson by Nian Bing without retorting, this was really a strange skill. However, she really wanted to see what kind of delicacy was hidden behind the green mist. Nian Bing carefully put the lychee into the ice mist and gently stirred it with her right hand. The mist immediately scattered in all directions, and everyone sitting around the table smelled the fresh air at the same time. Everyone unconsciously took a few deep breaths, and Urian seemed to feel that the injuries in her body were alleviated. Suddenly, when the green mist completely dissipated, there seemed to be a large, glaring green light rising from the large plate with a diameter of 1 meter, stimulating everyone's eyes to feel as if the world had completely turned green. The sparkling light constantly reflected onto the sunlight. Coupled with the fresh aura from before, everyone couldn't help but continuously reflect onto the sunlight. Coupled with the fresh aura from before, everyone couldn't help but pick up their chopsticks, but when they saw the food on the plate, no one could bear to use their chopsticks to pick up the food on the plate. It was the same 9 Azure Divine Dragon Bing Yun, but this time it was very different from the time at the Clear Wind study. At a glance, in the center of the plate, there were 9 emerald green dragon heads. They were of different shapes, and each dragon head looked different. Perhaps at a glance, it would seem a little messy, but if one looked closely, they would find that the distance and posture between them were very harmonious. In the center of the 9 dragon heads, there was a sparkling lychee. At this moment, the lychee was like a pearl, and it was like 9 dragons holding a pearl. Extending down the dragon heads, there was the dragon body. Yes, it seemed to be the body of a real dragon. The cucumbers were densely covered with scales. Now, they could finally understand what the blue light in Nian Bing's hand was doing. No one would say that Nian Bing had made 9 cucumbers. Those were clearly 9 dragons that stood out from the clouds. The 9 dragons were vivid and lifelike. Although they were not the slightest bit similar, they could still feel the harmonious relationship between them. When a flawless dish was presented in front of them, it was like a work of art. Garamandes raised his head to look at Nian Bing, a deep light flashing in his eyes. Perhaps you were right. A delicacy is not only satisfying in terms of taste, but also in terms of visual satisfaction. Nian Bing, I've finally learned this lesson. At this point, he suddenly paused and smiled awkwardly. But no matter how I look at your dish, it seems like you want me to eat my own kind. You can't be thinking of doing that, right? Nian Bing laughed. She said, "Didn't you just say that no matter what you did, it would be 9 cucumbers? Since they are cucumbers, what's the point of eating them? Let's do it. If we don't eat them now, when the ice disappears, the taste will change. Ain't you, Duke? Please have a taste. In the end, Garamandes was an impatient person. He was the first one to eat. He closed his eyes and imagined that it was 9 cucumbers. He reached into the plate and picked up a small part of the dragon body. Although the cucumbers were closely connected, breaking their connection was an easy matter. With a light pinch, the cucumbers were already broken. He directly put the cucumbers into his mouth. The first feeling was the coldness. Following that, it was an incomparably fresh taste. Under the effect of the ice element, the sweetness of the cucumbers was completely stimulated. In addition, with the sugar powder that Nian Bing sprinkled, the taste was very unique. After eating a mouthful of the cucumbers, he felt as if he was floating. Everything was so wonderful. Although he only ate a small mouthful of the cucumbers, Garamandes found that he had reached a feeling that he had never felt before. That was satisfaction. Absolute satisfaction. He was full. It was not that his stomach was full, but that his taste organs had completely entered a special realm. It was so wonderful. Garamandes couldn't help but reveal a trace of a smile on his face. Garamandes' chopsticks also ruined the overall atmosphere on the plate. Although they were reluctant, the other 4 sitting at the table couldn't help but put the cucumbers into their mouths. Lan Sun was lucky. He just rushed back. When he saw the strange cucumbers on the plate, he couldn't help but put a dragon head into his mouth. Wow, this is so good. This dragon head is so delicious. It's so cool, so frosty, and so fragrant. It's so fresh. After eating the dragon head, Lan Sun let out a heartfelt praise. A low voice suddenly sounded in his ear. What did you just say? Is it good to eat a dragon head? Lan Sun turned around and saw Garamandes' face beside him. His eyes were filled with coldness. Only then did Lan Sun remember that there was a giant dragon sitting there. He couldn't help but feel embarrassed. Sorry, I didn't mean to. Garamandes harumphed rudely. He lifted the plate. At this time, the others had only taken a bite. He couldn't wait to put the 9 cucumbers on the plate into his mouth one by one. He didn't even leave the tail of the cucumber behind. Even if I'm eating a dragon, I'm the only one who can eat it. Yes, it's really good. I feel so much better. But Nian Bing, I'm a fire dragon. I'm not interested in this cold thing. Do you have any other good food? Nian Bing smiled bitterly. If you're not interested, why did you eat it all? If you were interested, wouldn't you have taken the plate with you? Garamandes' face reddened. All right, you can say that. But I just realized that you don't have to eat until you're full to feel good. Really good food can be satisfied with just one bite. I can tell that this dish of yours is filled with reverence. It's reverence for me, the great Garamandes. Nian Bing said in annoyance, reverence your head. Everything I cooked today was for Auntie you. Who do you think I'm reverence for? Garamandes said angrily, what? You think I'm not as good as her? Do you want to fight me? Nian Bing frowned. What fight? I respect Annie you because she looks like my mother. What? Do you want to be my mother too? Garamandes' expression changed instantly. His facial muscles twisted as if he had eaten a fly. Mother, Nian Bing, I'm going to kill you. You're doing this on purpose, aren't you? Nian Bing wasn't afraid of Garamandes at all. She smiled and said, kill? Then go ahead and kill me. But I have to remind you that although I'm not as strong as you, when it comes to cooking, I'm afraid there aren't many people in the entire continent who are better than me. Even if you're stronger than me, without the support of magic, it's impossible for you to make as many changes as I do. Garamandes, you don't have to show me that ugly face. You're the one who won't kill me. Garamandes was stunned at first, but then his expression became calm. He sat back in his seat and muttered to himself, a great person won't hold a grudge against a petty person. I didn't hear anything. Nian Bing shook her head helplessly. She found that Garamandes was getting cuter and cuter. As long as it involved food, he was like a child who could be manipulated by her. She turned to Urian and Duke Blue Feather. Annie, what do you think? Urian smiled. That gentle smile made Nian Bing feel as if she was looking at her mother again. Nian Bing, now I believe that you're really a chef. Moreover, you're a top chef who can integrate magic into your cooking. Annie has eaten many good things, but this is the first time I've tasted such delicious cucumbers. Duke Bluefeather nodded. Yes, I've tasted many delicacies, but this is the first time I've tasted such a unique dish. Magic and cooking can be combined so perfectly. It's amazing. Rui and Ru Ming's eyes were filled with surprise. Although they had only taken a bite each, Nian Bing's culinary skills had left a deep impression on them. Before Nian Bing officially demonstrated her skills, none of them believed that Nian Bing was a chef. But now, they had no choice but to believe because everything was so real. Magical knife skills, dreamy dishes, all of them prove his words. Nian Bing smiled faintly and said, "I've always been a chef. My magic is all for the sake of my culinary skills. Auntie, Duke, please continue to taste. Today, I prepared many dishes for you. The next dish is the ice aspect, which is fire." As he spoke, he had already walked back to the stove. This time, the roar of the god of fire appeared, the Zhengyang saber. As a former member of the Feng people, Yu Rian, who was of the fire attribute, was undoubtedly the most sensitive to the aura of fire. When the sword appeared, she immediately stood up from her seat. This is the aura of the divine stone of fire. Nian Bing, how did you get this sword? As far as I know, the divine stone of fire has only appeared once on the continent. Our Feng people once wanted to intervene and snatch it, but failed. It was... Just as she said this, she saw a strange light in Nian Bing's eyes. The huge spiritual power seemed to resonate with her consciousness. Her voice stopped, and she couldn't continue. Nian Bing smiled and said, "Auntie, I know what you're saying. However, it belongs to me now. This knife of mine is called Righteous Yang. It's just my kitchen knife." With a muffled sound, the roar of the fire god was nailed to the table. Under the control of Nian Bing's spiritual power, the divine stone of fire only emitted a weak light. A big pot appeared out of thin air. Nian Bing's left hand held the edge of the pot. Her right hand took out 3 green onions from a space ring and placed them on the table. The righteous sun knife flashed, and the clean green onions were cut into neat pieces. They were placed flat on the table. The righteous sun knife slanted and sent the green onions directly into the pot. Her right hand moved again, and a net made of steel wires appeared. It was just the right size to be placed flat on the pot. Nian Bing smiled slightly and said to the people around the table, "The best way to show the aura of fire is to barbecue. This dish was given to me by my master many years ago. It can only be fully displayed with the help of fire magic." As she spoke, a fresh and tender leg of lamb appeared in her right hand. She placed the pot on the stove and muttered a few incantations. A scorching flame came out of her palm and went straight into the pot. Under the influence of the flame, the entire pot turned red. The onions in the pot were immediately charred under the extreme heat. Plumes of thick smoke came out of the pot. The righteous sun knife moved, and the tender leg of lamb continuously fell under the influence of the red light. Strips of meat about 2 fingers wide fell neatly onto the steel net on the pot. The red light flickered, but when the steel net was fully covered, only the bones of the leg of lamb remained in Nian Bing's hand. Placing the righteous sun knife to the side, Nian Bing's right hand began to make strange gestures. Every time her wrist turned, a porcelain bottle would appear in her palm. The powder kept falling onto the steel net. Without waiting for the pot to cool down, Nian Bing poured a scorching flame into it. The righteous sun knife moved again. This time, she flipped the lamb slices over and sprinkled more than 10 condiments. The righteous sun knife shone with a fiery red light. The lamb slices were completely lifted up. The light of the knife faded away, and a large plate appeared. When the lamb slices fell onto the bottom of the plate, the lamb slices fell flat on the bottom of the plate. The originally red lamb slices now looked a little black, but the rich aroma could not be concealed. Nian Bing walked out from behind the stove and placed the plate on top of the 1-meter-wide plate. She smiled and said, "Please try my ice and fire 9 Heavens Extreme Fire Scallion Roasted Lamb Leg." This dish looked very simple, and Nian Bing only used a third of the time it took to make the frozen cloud of the 9 Azure Divine Dragon. Garamandes wanted to snatch the plate, but he realized that Nian Bing's righteous Yang saber was placed in front of him. "Great Garamandes, if you want to taste the essence of this dish, you can only eat 1 slice. If you eat too much, you won't be able to find the feeling. In this roasted lamb leg, there are a total of 81 flavors. Try and see how many flavors you can taste. Garamandes was stunned for a moment before he retracted his hand. He used his chopsticks to pick up a slice of lamb from the plate and put it into his mouth. Yuruyan and the others also used their chopsticks to pick up a slice of lamb. Even if they didn't eat it, the rich aroma was enough to whet their appetite. Nian Bing didn't hide the rank odor of the lamb. Instead, she brought out the rank odor of the lamb. The moment the lamb entered their mouths, there was a spicy aroma. Immediately after, the rich aroma of scallion mixed with the rank odor of the lamb exploded. The rich aroma filled everyone's senses with a burning sensation. The lamb slices were about 1/3 of an inch thick. They were crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. The taste of the seasonings was completely integrated into it. Every time they chewed, the aroma seemed to change. Nian Bing wasn't exaggerating when she said there were 81 flavors. It was a delicacy that made people forget to return. Compared to the sweet and refreshing taste of the 9 Azure Divine Dragon Hidden Ice Cloud, this dish was like a scorching flame. Although the spicy taste caused a great stimulation to the taste buds, the rich aroma made them full of appetite. Chapter 77. Looking at everyone's satisfied and surprised expression, Nian Bing smiled and said, "Although this dish looks simple, it's not easy to make. Similarly, magic is the foundation of this dish. I put spring onions in the iron pot, but not the water. When the pot is heated up by fire magic, the spring onions will become blurry and emit the fragrance of spring onions. At this time, the lamb meat is spread out on top of the pot, and with the addition of chili powder, cumin powder, salt, and 9 types of medicinal powder, the fragrance of the lamb meat is perfectly preserved. The most important part of this dish is actually the process of cutting the lamb meat. Every time the Shengyang saber cuts a piece of lamb meat, the fire element on the saber will change 9 times under my control. Every inch of the lamb meat will have a different amount of fire element attached to it, from shallow to deep. This way, under the roasting of the spring onions, more changes will occur. The oil of the lamb will overflow under the extreme roasting, making the fragrance even richer. To be precise, this extreme fire scallion roasted lamb leg has more than 81 types of leaf transformations. Lamb meat has a nourishing effect and is most suitable to eat in this kind of weather. It has the benefits of nourishing the body. Don't be shy. Everyone eat the rest." Hearing Nian Bing's last sentence, Garamandes realized that he had been tricked. However, when he tried to snatch it again, there was only one left on the plate for him. However, he had to admit that Nian Bing's previous words made some sense. Only by carefully tasting it could the changes of this roasted lamb leg be achieved. The satisfaction of the taste made him not get angry, and he waited for Nian Bing's next dish to arrive. Walking back to the stove, Nian Bing took a deep breath. At this time, even he was immersed in the process of making food. Although he didn't eat, when he saw the satisfied expressions of Yuruyan and the others after they stopped eating the food he made, his heart was also satisfied. After all, as a chef, being recognized by the dishes he made gave him the greatest sense of accomplishment. The proud heaven saber jumped into his hand again. Nian Bing said, "Today, I prepared 9 dishes. The first 4 dishes all have a special characteristic. The first dish is the breath of ice. The second dish is the extreme of fire. After tasting the spicy aroma, your taste buds must have been stimulated quite a bit. On the positive side, I will use the freedom of the wind to help you baptize your dryness." The first 9 Azure Godly Dragon, Bing Yun, had used the proud Heaven Blade and the Ghost Carving Godly Blade, but he had displayed the characteristics of ice. Now, when he used the proud Heaven Blade again, he had the true aura of wind. Extreme freezing ice, scorching fire, with your diametrically opposite auras as the guide. Wind of freedom, please heed my call. Condense in space and release your aura of freedom. Under the chanting of the incantation, the first thing that appeared was a red and a blue light. The red and blue light emitted a slight resonance as they entangled. Suddenly, the light transformed into a red and blue magic array and floated into Nian Bing's body. He raised the wind of freedom in his hand, and it suddenly emitted a strong green light. The gem at the end of the blade was like a bright star, and the other magic elements in the whole courtyard were completely replaced by the wind element. Fine green light continuously condensed in Nianbing's direction. The breath of wind, under the guidance of Nianbing's proud heaven blade, quickly revolved around his body. That was the true breath of wind. Lan Yu and Yu Ruyan were somewhat confused. The two of them looked at each other, and in their hearts, they were wondering what kind of magician Nianbing was. From the beginning of ice, then earth fire, and now earth wind. All of this revealed a strange color. In their hearts, Nianbing, who was both a magician and a chef, was filled with a mysterious color. The proud heaven blade in Nianbing's hand made a downward and upward motion. Under the guidance of the blade, the whirlpool revolving around his body turned into a small tornado and jumped onto the kitchen table. The green earth wind spun rapidly, stimulating Nianbing's golden hair to flutter behind him. Under the contrast of his silver dragon robe, he looked even more handsome. Mimicry. He was using mimicry. However, his mimicry magic was very different from Garamandy's. Garamandy's had carefully taught him according to his situation. If he wanted to use magic of other elements, he first had to understand the structure and characteristics of the various magic elements. In fact, it was necessary to know the source of the magic. However, it was very difficult to activate the magic of other elements. Garamandy's could rely on his dragon body, just the body of a fire dragon, to do it. However, as for the production of ice, it required two processes. Using the energy of the same origin and the rejection of each other as the source, coupled with the activation of a peerless treasure blade, he was able to complete the mimicry. Although this type of mimicry magic was much more difficult to cast and consumed a lot of magic power, there was an advantage. The mimicry magic would only be one level lower than ice and fire magic. This was the case at all times. When Nianbing completed his first mimicry magic, he was wild with joy. These days, he had been constantly thinking about the use of mimicry magic. Not only did he want to use it in battle, but he also wanted to use it in cooking. Today was the first time he used mimicry magic to cook. At this time, the ability that appeared was the ability of wind. Wind was free. Only by fully displaying its characteristics of freedom could it truly display the effects of wind. Looking at the fifth step wind magic in front of him that was completely under his control, Nianbing did not stop. In order to maintain this magic, he was afraid that his magic power would be consumed at every moment. Time did not allow him to hesitate. Taking off the spatial ring from his right hand, he put it on his left hand. With a wave of his left hand, a cucumber appeared first. The proud heaven blade in Nianbing's right hand turned into a green ball of light with a diameter of 3 feet. He directly threw the cucumber into this green ball of light. Immediately after, fine cucumber shreds floated out from the green ball of light. Without needing Nianbing to deliberately control it, the green wind on the kitchen table had already sucked the cucumber shreds into it. Immediately after, a carrot appeared. Nianbing's actions were the same, and the carrot also turned into fine shreds. After that, onions, green peppers, green radishes, and 6 kinds of green vegetables were quickly absorbed into the whirlwind. The originally green whirlwind, after being absorbed by the shreds of vegetables, became extremely eye-catching. Small porcelain bottles appeared in Nianbing's hands one after another. These were all sauces that he had concocted. First, he used a bottle of red juice. When the juice was spilled out, it was sucked into the whirlwind. Leaf Daudenier did not scatter, and was instead completely blocked by the whirlwind. Immediately after, he used a golden juice, as well as a small amount of vegetables and grains. Nianbing's actions came to a halt. The proud heaven blade returned to its original state from the ball of light, and the green light disappeared. Under Nianbing's command, the whirlwind left the kitchen table and rose up. Another large plate appeared. When the whirlwind stopped spinning, it was as if a colorful rain was falling from the sky, and the shreds of vegetable slowly floated down. The plate in Nianbing's hands trembled slightly, and not a single shred of vegetable was left behind. When all of the shreds of vegetable fell down, it was perfectly stacked on top of the plate. He walked out from behind the stove and placed the plate on top of the roasted lamb leg. He smiled and said, "Please try this. Wind Demon's Dance of the 9 Heavens of Ice and Fire." Garamandes was a bit puzzled. "Nian Bing, this dish is a bit lacking compared to the previous two. It's just shreds of vegetable that can be eaten raw. What's so special about it?" Nian Bing smiled. "This dish is mainly for the taste. If there's anything special about it, it would be the 2 sauces that I sprinkled in. My master has immersed himself in decades of culinary research. When he taught me this dish, he told me that it was a true treasure. I used the whirlwind to perfectly fuse the shreds of vegetable with the 2 sauces. In addition, I added a small amount of vegetables and grains so that every single shred of vegetable can be evenly nourished by the seasoning. I also infused some of the wind element into the shreds of vegetable. Leaf Doudenier is unique. Although it looks simple to make, it is definitely not easy. The 2 sauces I used were not freshly made yesterday. They were the ones I brought with me when I left my master. If I really wanted to make these 2 sauces, I would need at least several months to succeed." Garamandes looked at Nian Bing in surprise. "You make it sound so mysterious. What exactly are those 2 sauces?" Nian Bing smiled. "They are vinegar and soy sauce used to make cold dishes." "What?" Garamandes looked as if he had been played. "Nian Bing, are you trying to trick me? Although I'm not human, I know that soy sauce and vinegar are the most basic condiments you humans use. It's just soy sauce and vinegar, yet you make it sound so mysterious. Are you trying to trick me?" Nian Bing proudly said. "Do I need to trick you? You're not human, so you don't understand the great food culture of humans. Duke, you're one of the upper echelons of the Ottoman Empire. I don't know if you've heard of Ghost King's soy sauce and red soul vinegar." Lan Yu's heart skipped a beat. A look of surprise appeared in his eyes. "Are you talking about the Ghost King soy sauce and red soul vinegar that are more valuable than gold?" Nian Bing nodded. "When I was young, I heard that there are these 2 condiments on the continent. They are made through a very special process. Even the most common food will become a delicacy if you add one of these 2 condiments. The Ghost King soy sauce and red soul vinegar are also known as purple gold soy sauce and diamond vinegar. A small bottle of this soy sauce or vinegar is worth hundreds of purple gold coins. Moreover, it's priceless. It's the delicacy that all the nobles of the continent desire. It's also the best dish that all the chefs yearn for. These 2 condiments can only be made by one chef. That chef won the title of God of Cookery 5 times in a row. His culinary skills are unparalleled in both ancient and modern times." Nian Bing laughed self-deprecatingly. If his skills are truly unparalleled in both ancient and modern times, he wouldn't have lost. Although he lost due to carelessness, he still lost. From then on, he completely withdrew from the culinary world and retired in the mountains. Even when he died, he was still thinking about how to reach the peak of his culinary skills. "Duke, the person you're talking about is my teacher. He was once the head of the 5 God of Cookery, the Ghost Chef." Silence. The entire martial arts arena was silent. Everyone's gaze fell on Nian Bing. After a while, Yurian said, "This Ghost Chef is the one I saw last time?" Nian Bing slowly nodded and said to Garamandes, "Now, do you still think that this vinegar and soy sauce are ordinary? It's the fruit of my teacher's many years of research. It's also his most prized treasure. After my teacher passed away, only I know how to make the Ghost King soy sauce and red soul vinegar. Perhaps this dish isn't considered precious, but it's one of a kind." Garamandes said foolishly, "Since they're both soy sauce and vinegar, what's the difference between these 2 and ordinary ones?" Nian Bing smiled faintly and said, "Ordinary soy sauce and vinegar are made through fermentation, but the one my teacher developed is not. As for the specifics, it's a secret. I can't tell you." Garamandes picked up his chopsticks and muttered to himself, "Then I want to have a taste. What's so good about your soy sauce and vinegar?" Under his lead, everyone began to move their chopsticks and taste this Nian Bing's dance of the wind demon. Various shredded vegetables were mixed together, crisp and crisp. The different fragrances of various vegetables brought a different flavor. When the vegetables entered the mouth, it was as if there was wind flowing. Slightly salty, slightly sour, slightly sweet. Each taste was not rich, but when combined together, it was surprisingly harmonious. When a mouthful of vegetables was swallowed into the stomach, the last remaining taste was fresh. Yes, it was fresh and delicious. It was as fresh as if one had just eaten the best seafood. Garamandes realized that even the snow fish soup he drank before couldn't compare to this fresh taste. However, there wasn't a trace of the fishy smell of seafood. That was such a touching feeling. The fresh taste completely dispelled the dryness of the roasted lamb leg, filling the taste buds. It was so magical. Was this still ordinary shredded vegetables? No, it wasn't. Nian was right. Although this dish looked the simplest, its taste had already overshadowed the previous two dishes. There was only one explanation, and that was the miraculous effect of the Ghost King soy sauce and red soul vinegar. Nian smiled faintly and said, "Garamandes, how do you feel?" Garamandes' face turned red. How can this thing taste fresh and delicious? Your soy sauce and vinegar are really good. Can you give me some? Nian said unhappily, "No, it's a waste of a gift. If it can't be used properly, then even the best seasoning will be wasted. Ghost King soy sauce and red soul vinegar are the most suitable for cooking two kinds of food. One is to make cold vegetables, and the other is to be used as seasoning for seafood. I mean the kind that is dipped in it and not directly used for cooking. You'll have the chance to eat it again in the future." Blue Feather smiled. "I didn't think I'd be lucky enough to taste this lost seasoning. Nian, I want you to continue cooking, but I also want to stop you. Because if I eat more of your food, I'm afraid I won't find anything delicious in the future." Suddenly, when the green mist completely dissipated from the large plate with a diameter of 1 meter, there seemed to be a large glaring green light rising up, stimulating everyone's eyes to feel as if the world had completely turned green. The sparkling light continued to reflect under the sunlight. Coupled with the fresh aura from before, everyone couldn't help but pick up their chopsticks. However, when they saw the food on the plate, no one could bear to use their chopsticks to pick up the food on the plate. It was the same 9 azure dragons being yin, but this time it was very different from the time at the Breeze sect. At a glance, there were 9 emerald green dragon heads in the center of the plate. They were of different shapes, and each dragon head had a different appearance. Perhaps at first glance, they looked a little messy, but upon closer inspection, they found that the distance and posture between them were very harmonious. At the center of the 9 heads was a sparkling lychee. At this time, the lychee was like a pearl in the shape of 9 dragons holding a pearl. Below the dragon's head was the dragon's body. Yes, it seemed to be a real dragon's body. The cucumbers were densely covered with scale-like patterns. Now, they finally understood what the ball of blue light in Nian hand was doing. No one would say that Nian dish was 9 cucumbers anymore. It was clearly 9 enormous dragons that stood out from the clouds. The 9 dragons were extremely lifelike. Even though they did not have anything in common, one could still feel the harmonious relationship between them. When the flawless dish was presented in front of them, it was like a piece of art. Garamandes looked up at Nian, his eyes flashing with a deep light. "Perhaps you're right. A delicacy is not only satisfying in terms of taste, but also in terms of visual satisfaction. Nian, I've learned this lesson." At this point, he suddenly paused and smiled awkwardly. "But no matter how I look at your dish, it seems like you want me to eat my own kind. You can't be thinking of doing that, right?" Nian laughed and said, "Didn't you just say that no matter what, these are 9 cucumbers? Since they're cucumbers, what's the point of eating them? Let's eat. If we don't eat now, the taste will change when the ice disappears. On to you, Duke. Please try it." Garamandes was an impatient person. He was the first to eat. He closed his eyes and imagined that it was 9 cucumbers. He reached into the plate and picked up a small part of the dragon body. Cucumbers were closely connected. However, it was easy to break their connection. With a light pinch, the cucumbers were already broken. He directly put the cucumbers into his mouth. The first thing he felt was the coldness, followed by an incomparably refreshing taste. Under the effect of the ice element, the sweetness of the cucumbers was completely stimulated. With the addition of the powdered sugar sprinkled by Nian, the taste was very unique. After eating a mouthful of cucumbers, he felt as if he was floating in the air. Everything was so wonderful. Although it was only a small mouthful of cucumbers, Garamandes found that he had reached a feeling he had never felt before. That was satisfaction, absolute satisfaction. He was full. It wasn't that his stomach was full, but that his taste buds had entered a special realm. It was wonderful. Garamandes couldn't help but smile. Garamandes's chopsticks also destroyed the overall atmosphere of the plate. Although they were reluctant, the other four couldn't help but put the cucumbers into their mouths. At this time, Lan Sun had just rushed back. When he saw the strange cucumbers on the plate, he couldn't help but put a dragon head into his mouth. Wow, this is so good. This dragon head is so delicious. It's so cool, so frosty, and so fragrant. It's so fresh. After eating the dragon head, Lan Sun let out a heartfelt praise. A deep voice suddenly sounded in his ear. What did you just say? Does it feel good to eat a dragon head? Lan Sun turned around and saw Garamandes's face beside him. His eyes were filled with coldness. Only then did he remember that there was a giant dragon at the table. He couldn't help but say awkwardly, "Sorry, I didn't mean to." Garamandes harumphed rudely and lifted the plate. At this time, the others had only taken a bite. He couldn't wait to put the 9 cucumbers on the plate into his mouth one by one. He didn't even leave the tail of the cucumbers behind. Even if I'm eating a dragon, I'm the only one who can eat it. Yes, it does feel good. My heart feels better. But Nian Bing, I'm a fire dragon. I'm not interested in this cold thing. Do you have any other good food? Nian Bing smiled bitterly. If you're not interested, you're eating it all. If you were interested, wouldn't you have taken the plate with you? Garamandes's face reddened. All right, you can say that. But I just realized that you don't have to eat until you're full to feel good. Really good food can be satisfied with just one bite. I can tell that this dish of yours is filled with reverence. It's reverence for me, the great Garamandes. Nian Bing said unhappily, "Reverence your head. Everything I've cooked today is for Auntie you. Who do you think I'm reverence for?" Garamandes said angrily, "What? You think I'm not as good as her? Do you want to fight me?" Nian Bing frowned. "What fight? I'm reverence for Annie because she's like my mother." "What? Do you want to be my mother too?" Garamandes's expression changed instantly. It was as if he had eaten fly feces. His facial muscles twisted. "Mother, Nian Bing, I'm going to kill you. You're doing this on purpose, aren't you?" Nian Bing wasn't afraid of Garamandes at all. She laughed and said, "Kill? Then go ahead and kill me. But I have to remind you that although I'm not as strong as you, when it comes to cooking, I'm afraid there aren't many people in the entire continent who are better than me. Even if you're stronger than me, without the support of magic, it's almost impossible for you to make as many changes as I do. Garamandes, there's no need to show me that ugly face. You're the one who's unwilling to kill me." Garamandes was stunned at first, but then his expression calmed down. He sat back in his seat and muttered to himself, "A great person won't hold a grudge against a petty person." "I didn't hear anything." Nian Bing helplessly shook her head. She found that Garamandes was becoming more and more adorable. As long as it involved food, he was like a child who could be manipulated by her. She turned to Ruyin and the Duchess of Blue Feather. "Andy, what do you think?" Ruyin smiled. That gentle smile made Nian Bing feel as if she was looking at her mother again. "Nian Bing, now I believe that you're really a chef, and a top chef who has integrated magic into her cooking. Although this Annie has eaten many good things, this is the first time I've tasted such a delicious cucumber." The Duchess of Blue Feather nodded. "Yes, I've eaten many delicacies, but this is the first time I've tasted such a unique dish. Magic and cooking can be combined so perfectly, it's amazing." On the side, Ru Yi and Ru Meng were surprised. Although they had only taken a bite each, Nian Bing's culinary skills had left a deep impression on them. Before Nian Bing officially demonstrated her skills, none of them believed that Nian Bing was a chef. But now, they had no choice but to believe because everything was so real. Miraculous knife skills, dreamy dishes. All of them proved his words. Nian Bing smiled faintly. "I'm a chef to begin with. My magic is all for the sake of my culinary skills. Auntie, Duchess, please continue to taste. Today, I prepared many dishes for you." The next dish is the opposite of ice, which is fire. As he spoke, he walked back to the stove. This time, the roar of the god of fire appeared, the righteous Yang saber. As a former member of the Feng people, Yu Ruyan, who was of the fire attribute, was undoubtedly the most sensitive to the aura of fire. When the righteous Yang saber appeared, she immediately stood up from her seat. This is the aura of the divine stone of fire. Nian Bing, how did you get this saber? From what I know, the divine stone of fire has only appeared once on the continent. Our Feng people once tried to steal it, but failed. It was... Just as she said this, she saw a strange light in Nian Bing's eyes. Her huge spiritual power seemed to resonate with her consciousness. Her voice stopped, and she couldn't continue. Nian Bing smiled slightly. Auntie, I know what you said, but it now belongs to me. My saber is called the Righteous Yang Saber. It's only my kitchen saber. With a thud, the roar of the god of fire was nailed to the table. Under the control of Nian Bing's spiritual power, the divine stone of fire only emitted a weak light. A big pot appeared out of thin air. Nian Bing's left hand held the edge of the pot, and her right hand took out 3 green onions from the space ring and placed them on the table. The righteous Yang saber flashed red, and the clean green onions were cut into neat pieces. They were placed flat on the table. The righteous Yang saber slanted and sent the green onions directly into the pot. Her right hand moved again, and a net made of steel wires appeared. It was just the right size to be placed flat on the pot. Nian Bing smiled slightly and said to the people around the table, "The best way to show the aura of fire is to barbecue. This dish was taught to me by my master. It can only be used to its fullest potential with the help of fire magic." As she spoke, a fresh, fat leg of lamb appeared in her right hand. She placed the pot on the stove and muttered a few incantations. Scorching flames came out of her palm and went straight into the pot. Under the effect of the flames, the entire pot turned red. The onions in the pot were immediately charred under the extreme heat, and thick smoke came out of the pot. The righteous Yang saber moved, and the tender leg of lamb continuously fell under the effect of the red light. Strips of meat about 2 fingers wide fell neatly onto the steel net on top of the pot. The red light flickered, but when the steel net was completely covered, only bones were left of the leg of lamb in Nian Bing's hand. Placing the righteous Yang saber to the side, Nian Bing's right hand began to make strange gestures. Every time her wrist turned, a porcelain bottle would appear in her palm, and powder would continuously fall onto the steel net. Without waiting for the pot to cool down, Nian Bing injected a scorching flame into it. The righteous Yang saber moved again. This time, she flipped the lamb slices over and sprinkled more than 10 condiments. The righteous Yang saber shone with a fiery red light, and the lamb slices were all lifted up. The light from the saber faded, and another large plate appeared. When the lamb slices fell, they were perfectly placed on the bottom of the plate. The originally red lamb slices now looked a little black, but the rich aroma could not be concealed. Nian Bing walked out from behind the stove and placed the plate on the 1-meter-wide plate. She smiled and said, "Please try my ice and fire 9 Heavens Extreme Fire Scallion Roasted Lamb Leg." This dish appeared to be very simple, and Nian Bing had only used a third of the time required to make the 9 Azure Divine Dragons Frozen Cloud. Garamandes wanted to snatch the plate, but he realized that Nian Bing's righteous Yang saber was placed in front of him. "Great Garamandes, if you want to taste the essence of this dish, you can only eat 1 slice. If you eat too much, you won't be able to find the feeling. There are a total of 81 flavors in this roasted lamb leg. Try and taste how many flavors you can taste." Garamandes was stunned for a moment before he retracted his hand. He used his chopsticks to pick up a slice of lamb from the plate and put it into his mouth. Yu Ruyan and the others also used their chopsticks to pick up a slice of lamb. Even if they didn't eat it, the rich aroma was enough to whet their appetite. Nian Bing didn't hide the smell of the lamb. Instead, she brought out the smell of the lamb. As soon as the lamb entered their mouths, there was a spicy aroma. Immediately after, the rich aroma of scallion mixed with the smell of the lamb exploded. The rich aroma filled everyone's senses with a burning sensation. The lamb slices were about 1/3 of an inch thick. They were crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. The taste of the seasonings was completely integrated. Every time they chewed, the aroma seemed to change. Nian Bing wasn't exaggerating when she said that there were 81 flavors. It was a delicacy that made people forget to return. Compared to the sweet and refreshing taste of the 9 azure divine dragons' hidden ice cloud, this dish was like a scorching flame. Although the spicy taste caused a great stimulation to the taste buds, the rich aroma made them full of appetite. Chapter 78. Wan Yu laughed heartily as he stood up. Good, good, good. Nian Bing, this is your home from now on. Yu Ruyan gave Nian Bing a look. Nian Bing originally only wanted to acknowledge Yu Ruyan, but in order to give her face, she could only brace herself and call out awkwardly, "Foster father." Yu Ruyan glanced at Garamandes. Nian Bing said, "Are you in a hurry to leave today? What's the matter? Stay in the manor for a few more days." Nian Bing also looked at Garamandes with a questioning gaze. Garamandes stretched comfortably and said, "Don't look at me. I don't care as long as there's good food." Yu Ruyan smiled slightly and said, "No matter what, Aolan City is the capital of the Ottoman Empire. There are some famous snacks that are worth tasting. Then, you can stay here first. Sunur, arrange a room for Nian Bing and the others." Garamandes yawned and said, "Why do I feel sleepy when I'm full? Nian Bing, I'm going to sleep first. Call me when it's time to eat." Nian Bing thought to herself, sleeping after eating? Isn't that a pig? However, he also hoped that Garamandes would leave for a while. There were many things that he still didn't understand that he wanted to ask Yu Ruyan. Garamandes left under Lan Sun's lead. Ru Yi and Ru Meng were overjoyed as they left. At this moment, Ru Yi was no longer cold. A trace of shyness could be seen on her face from time to time. Yu Ruyan called out to Nian Bing and brought her back to the study with Lan Yu. After closing the door, she pulled Nian Bing to sit down. "Child, this is only the second time we've met. Can you tell your mother about you?" Perhaps it was because of Yu Ruyan's kind and gentle voice, but Nian Bing's emotions were exceptionally weak today. Her eyes reddened as she slowly nodded and said, "Mother, I was originally from the Huarong Empire." Yu Ruyan didn't reveal any surprise. She stroked Nian Bing's long blonde hair and smiled. Blonde hair is the symbol of the Huarong Empire. However, the Huarong Empire people's eyes are mainly brown. "You don't look like that." Nian Bing nodded and said, "I'm a mixed blood. My mother is from the Ice Moon Empire, and my father is from the Huarong Empire. Due to some special reason, they were separated. My father trained hard in magic to save my mother. However, when I followed my father to save my mother, we discovered that the difference between us and our enemies was so great. Not only did we not manage to save my father was also captured by my father. Only I was able to use the space magic scroll that my father had prepared in advance to escape. At that time, I was only 10 years old. Under the pursuit of my enemies, I had no choice but to jump into the rapid Azure River. Fortunately, I was lucky and hugged a large piece of wood. It just so happened that I fell into the fishing net that my teacher had cast. That was how I managed to survive. My magic was taught by my father when I was young. Later on, for some reason, ice magic appeared in addition to the original fire magic. I could only fumble around and cultivate until I met Garamandes. Only then did I finally find a way to truly enter the realm of ice and fire." Yu Ruyan sighed softly and said, "Child, do you have any difficulties that you can't speak of? Why don't you tell me about your enemies? Since I've already acknowledged you as my son, your enemies are naturally mine." Nian Bing slowly shook her head. With a firm tone, she said, "No, mother, I can't implicate you. My enemies are powerful, but their existence is also the motivation for me to work hard. If I rely on external help to achieve my goal, I'm not worthy of being called son. I want to rely on my own strength to achieve everything. Mother, don't worry. Before I have enough strength, I won't face my enemies." Yu Ruyan could see that Nian Bing had a deep worry in his heart, but since he was unwilling to say it, she couldn't force him. She smiled and said, "Mother only wants to tell you that no matter when, as long as you need my help, I will definitely appear by your side. I believe that one day you will tell me the truth, right? Nianbing nodded and said, Mother, I heard the conversation between you and phone people. I can roughly guess the conflict between the two of you. Is it true that the phone people are not allowed to marry outsiders? Yu Ruyan's eyes darkened. If there was a trace of accommodation, then the tragedy wouldn't have happened. Since you're already my child, there's no harm in telling you. I'm 51 years old this year, and your adoptive father is 53 years old. My real name is Feng Yan. 30 years ago, when I was 17 or 18 years old, I was the most outstanding of the younger generation of the Feng people. Because of my talent and deep understanding of the nine-leaf battle chi, I was appointed as the Phoenix of Hope on the day of my 18th coming-of-age ceremony. The Feng people are the same as the Dragon people and are governed by an elder system. The Feng people originally had 5 elders. Not only were they the top experts of the Feng people, but they also had the bloodline of the royal family. Back then, my father was the leader of the 5 elders of the Feng people. His Phoenix transformation had reached the 4th transformation, but on the day he completed the 4th transformation, he was too impatient in his cultivation and suffered from chi deviation. Before my father died, he entrusted me to the other 4 elders. Because of my father's death, the Feng people needed a new elder to take over the position of the elder. The selection of a new elder was made from the bloodline of the Feng people. Whoever had the most talent would become the Phoenix of Hope and would be the successor of the Feng people's elder. When the Phoenix of Hope reached the age of 40, he would directly become an elder of the clan, and I was that generation's Phoenix of Hope. Unfortunately, I didn't become an elder of the Feng people in the end. That was all because of me. Ruyan, I've always regretted it. Was our meeting the right thing to do? If I hadn't appeared, you wouldn't have been in such a difficult position. You wouldn't have had to go through so many hardships later on. Perhaps, under your leadership, the Feng people would have already flourished. Duke Bluefeather said somewhat sadly, but his eyes were full of affection as he looked at Yu Ruyan. Yu Ruyan smiled and said, Brother Yu, our meeting was the arrangement of the heavens. No one can change it. Although we've gone through many hardships, our feelings have never weakened. I've never regretted it. If I could choose again, I would still be willing to leave the Feng people with you. Ruyan, Bluefeather's voice was trembling. He stood up and went to Yu Ruyan's side. He opened his wide arms and hugged Yu Ruyan and Nianbing. At this moment, Nianbing clearly felt the long-lost warmth. Her vision blurred. Father, Mother, how good would it be if you were still alive? Can you see? Nianbing was very happy now. After a while, Bluefeather opened his arms. Looking at Nianbing's red eyes, he said, When I was young, I was just a commoner. It wasn't a hereditary title. At that time, if a commoner wanted to become a noble, the only way was to join the army. There's one thing I'm like you. When I was young, I lost my parents. It was my master who raised me. However, when I was 13, my master passed away due to a serious illness. Before he died, he told me to join the army. Truly powerful martial arts can only be felt on the battlefield filled with blood and iron. So I joined. I grew up tall. When I was 13, I already looked like a 14 or 15-year-old. In addition, I practiced martial arts since I was young and my body was strong. So I easily entered the Ottoman Empire's army. With my own efforts, I spent 10 years. It took me a full 10 years. I worked my way up from an ordinary soldier to a general who can command 5,000 men. At that time, my martial arts had also entered the realm of a martial arts master. I was the youngest martial arts master in the Ottoman Empire. After another 10 years, I was promoted to a deputy general. My prowess is already very famous in the Alan Empire. At that time, I also started to form the predecessor of the Silver Feather Knights. In one of the missions, the army that I led successfully attacked the enemy's storehouse where they were storing their rations, killing 10,000 of them. By the time we returned, less than 500 of our original 5,000 men were left. However, due to our sacrifice, the situation on the battlefield was reversed and the enemy fled in defeat. At that time, I was promoted to a general and was bestowed with the title of Viscount. At this point, he paused. His eyes were filled with confusion. It was as if he had returned to his military career. The iron and blood on the battlefield left an indelible impression in his heart. I should be thankful for that battle. After that battle, the military gave me a long holiday to rest and reorganize. I was all alone and had no relatives. Since it was a holiday, I chose to go on a trip. The destination of the trip was the Longmu Empire, which was right next to the Ottoman Empire. It was this trip that led me to meet Ru Yin in the forest. Sigh. I am ashamed to say that I have always thought that my martial arts were outstanding. However, from the day I met Ru Yin, I still couldn't compare to her. The first time we met, Ru Yin treated me as an intruder. Using her strength that was close to that of a swordsman, she captured me and brought me back to the Feng people. The Feng people are actually a peace-loving race. They didn't kill me. After asking clearly that I was here for a trip, they prepared to let me go. However, at that time, I discovered that I, who was 33 years old and didn't have any feelings, had already fallen in love with the girl who captured me. Ru Yin was already a core member of the Feng people at that time. However, even though she was already 30 years old, she was still so pure and beautiful. She looked like a girl in her early 20s. Her beauty hadn't changed in the slightest. What attracted me the most was her long dark green hair and clear eyes. I was reluctant to leave. I had studied in the military academy before and had good military knowledge. I stayed in the Feng people and passed on my military knowledge to them. I only stayed in order to have more opportunities to interact with Ru Yin. As time passed by, I and Ru Yin developed pure feelings for each other. Before my vacation ended, I brought Ru Yin to the Feng people's elders, hoping that they would allow Ru Yin to marry me. However, at that time, I didn't know the rules of the Feng people. As soon as I made this request, I was immediately rejected by the Feng people's elders. Furthermore, I was heavily injured and chased out of the Feng people. I didn't leave because I couldn't bear to part with the love of my heart. Even if I had to give up the title that I just received for Ru Yin, I definitely wouldn't regret it. I was waiting. I believed that Ru Yin also loved me. My wait wasn't in vain. 3 days later, Ru Yin finally found an opportunity and ran away from the Feng people. When we were young, we were easily impulsive. Under the influence of love, we eloped and ran back to the Ottoman Empire. Ru Yin continued. When we returned to the Ottoman Empire, Brother Yu and I held a wedding ceremony. A year later, we had our first daughter. At that time, we were really happy. We were looking forward to a beautiful future together. I naively thought that since Brother Yu and I already had a child, even if we went back, the elders wouldn't blame us. However, when our child was just half a year old, we didn't expect that a crisis would befall us. The elders of the clan finally found our whereabouts. Although Brother Yu and I weren't weak, how could we be a match for the elders? Normal soldiers weren't a threat to the members of the Feng people. We could only run like crazy with our child. The elders chased after us relentlessly. It was during this period of time that my Phoenix transformation entered its third transformation. In the end, running wasn't a solution. In a mountainous region not far from the Ice Moon Empire, we were successfully intercepted by the elders. The 4 elders attacked us with all their strength. Not long after we fought, our child was taken away by the elders. Elder Feng Su, the one who had watched me grow up, used the 9 heavens leaf fire to burn our daughter to ashes. At that time, Brother Yu and I were both dumbfounded and crazy. That was the fruit of our love. At that time, we no longer had any misgivings. Our minds were blank. It was as if the flames of our lives were going to burn out at that moment. Because Brother Yu was too sad, he actually stimulated the potential in his body and used the lightning dragon physique. His Do Chi completely merged with the heavenly lightning and reached a new level. At that time, we only wanted to put our lives on the line and die together with the elders. We completely lost our minds. After that, we all fainted. I only remember that the 4 elders all suffered different degrees of injuries. Perhaps they thought that we had died from our injuries, so they didn't take away Brother Yu's and my bodies. When we woke up, it was already 3 days later. We had to recuperate for an entire month before we fully recovered. However, the trauma to our hearts was irreparable. Our first daughter died, just like that. Do you know how cute she was? Even now, I still remember her pair of big blue eyes. I believe that if she was still alive, she would definitely be more beautiful than me. However, she died just like that. She died in the cruel flames. At this point, Urian clenched her fists tightly. She was already sobbing silently. Mother, don't be sad. The past is the past. You still have Chun and me. At this time, Nian Bing didn't know how to comfort Urian. Lan Yu sighed deeply and said, Nian Bing, perhaps you don't believe it. Although our child is gone, Rian and I don't have a deep hatred for the Feng people. After all, Rian was raised by the elders of the Feng people. It was the Feng people who raised her. Although the hatred was deep, the gratitude was also deep. Therefore, even when we had enough power to take revenge, we still didn't take action. In order to not let Rian be too sad, we had Qinshan a year later. We were afraid that the tragedy would repeat itself. When Qinshan was 1 year old, we sent her to be a disciple of an important person. At least she would be safe there. Every year, we would secretly bring her back regularly. Until now, we were confident that we could protect her from harm. I didn't expect them to come again today. However, this time, they were taught a lesson. Even if the 4 elders of the Feng people came together, they might not be able to defeat us. In order to protect Qinshan, Ruyan didn't slack off for a single day. With her talent, she was able to reach the 6th transformation of the Phoenix transformation. This is what happened between us and the Feng people. Now, I just hope that they won't come and disturb our lives. We don't want to have anything to do with the Feng people. Nian Bing used Ruyan's handkerchief to wipe the tears on her face. She said softly, Mother, I know that you still can't forget everything about the Feng people. What has already happened? Everything is in the past. Let go of your feelings. The Feng people, now, have a new phoenix of hope. I know Feng knew. She has already entered the swordsman realm at such a young age. Her future achievements won't be low. Urian sighed softly and said, This is what I am worried about. When that girl called Feng Nu excitedly held your hand, it was as if I saw the scene from 20 years ago repeat itself. Once a girl truly loves, she will never give up. It was very difficult to give up. The love that was engraved in one's bones was not something that time could dilute. Nian Bing, can you tell me how you two met? Nian Bing nodded and said, Feng Nu and I met in Ice Snow City. There, I went to Ice Snow City to find a famous blacksmith to fuse the divine fire stone into the righteous Yang saber. But I didn't expect that the blacksmith had already passed away. Only his disciple was left, Feng Nu. He immediately recounted everything that happened between him and Feng Nu in detail. He didn't leave out anything that happened in the Fire Dragon Cave. Duke Bluefeather and Yu Ruyan listened carefully. When Nian Bing said that he sacrificed his own freedom so that Garamandes would let the others go, their expressions changed. Yu Ruyan frowned and said, Nian Bing, although your uncle and I combined, our strength can't compare to that Fire Dragon King. You are already our child. We can ask Chinchin's master for help. Perhaps there's a chance. As long as you want to leave Ramandes, it's not impossible. Now I understand why Feng Nu was so emotional when she saw you again. You sacrificed yourself to save others. You chose to save others even when you might lose your life. This noble character has moved her heart. I'm afraid that my worries are correct. Feng Nu is already irrevocably in love with you. But I'm afraid that you will suffer the same pain as Brother Yu and I did in the past. To be honest, I don't want you to marry Feng Nu. Not only for you, but also for Feng Nu and the Feng people. As the former Phoenix of Hope, I have already left the Feng people. If Feng Nu also leaves the Feng people because of you, the impact on the Feng people will be immeasurable. After all, even in the Feng people, raising a swordsman was not easy. Nianbing nodded and said, Mother, I understand what you mean. But you also know that when feelings come to a point, it's not something that can be resisted by humans. But I can promise you that before I can take revenge and have the strength to protect Feng Nu, I will not really be with her. Also, I will respect Feng Nu's choice. If she doesn't want to be with me and chooses to inherit the position of the Feng people's elder, I will not force her. What do you think? Actually, I really don't understand why the Feng people don't allow the royal family members to marry humans. The Feng people themselves evolved from humans. Is the so-called bloodline so important? Yu Ruyin smiled bitterly and said, "This is the rule passed down from the Feng people. If the royal family members are just ordinary Feng people, maybe the elders can make an exception. But the Feng people only have a few dozen royal family members. Every loss of one is a huge blow to the Feng people. You won't be able to make an exception. Fortunately, you have that giant dragon by your side, so I can rest assured. But is it really okay for you to stay by his side? After all, he has restricted your freedom. If you want to leave him, we will do our best to help you." Nian Bing smiled and shook her head. "No, mother. I will never leave Garamandes." Nian Bing's determined tone surprised Yu Ruyin and Lan Yu. After all, Garamandes had restricted Nian Bing's freedom. But why was she so determined to stay by Garamandes' side? Seeing the surprise in her new parents' eyes, Nian Bing said, "That's right. When I first saw Garamandes, most of my feelings were of fear. After all, humans can't resist a giant dragon. I am not a selfless person. On the contrary, I value benefits more. In that situation, if I didn't stand out, I'm afraid that no one would be able to leave the fire dragon cave. In that case, I would still stay. Instead of that, why didn't I be more generous and use my cooking skills to attract Garamandes to let the others go? At the very least, it would be easier for me to escape when I was alone. At that time, Garamandes was a cruel, giant dragon in my eyes. He could end my life at any time. Eating was his only weakness. However, as I continued to interact with him, I realized that Garamandes wasn't as scary as I thought. At least, from the time I met him until now, he hasn't killed a single person. He is very cunning. However, cunning requires intelligence as a foundation. His tens of thousands of years of wisdom and profound knowledge is something that we humans can't compare to. I've been with him for about 2 months now. Not only did he not harm me, he didn't even restrict my freedom. Furthermore, being with such a powerful dragon creates an invisible pressure on me. Under the influence of this pressure, I naturally put in more effort in my cultivation. I have learned many things from Garamandes. This includes the mimicry magic that you saw earlier. If I hadn't been with him, if he hadn't helped me with all his strength, I wouldn't have been able to reach my current level of strength. For most mages, becoming a magic shooter was out of their reach. However, with the help of Garamandes, in just over a month, not only had my physical fitness improved greatly, but my level had also improved qualitatively. Without Garamandes, I wouldn't have been able to do anything. Without him, I wouldn't have been able to reach the small success that I have now. If I was only a slave in the beginning, I now view Garamandes as a friend. Perhaps he is also my teacher. In a certain room in the Duke's mansion, a certain fellow who was salivating muttered to himself, "At least you still have some conscience." After Yu Ruyin and her husband chatted for a while, Nian Bing left. Lan Sun had already arranged a room for him to stay in. He wasn't in a hurry to return to his room to rest. Instead, he quietly left the Duke's mansion. Feng Nu's appearance messed up Nian Bing's heart. While thinking about her, he strolled around Allen City. Although he had a flute in his spatial ring that could call out to Feng Nu, he didn't dare to play it now. After all, Feng Nu was with the 2 elders. After hearing Yu Ruyin's words, he was already very wary of the elders of the Feng people. The afternoon sun in Allen City was still bright and beautiful. Nian Bing walked for more than an hour, but he still couldn't find his target. He sighed helplessly and thought to himself, "Feng Nu, are we really not fated to be together?" At this moment, a sharp voice suddenly sounded in Nian Bing's ears. He raised his head in surprise. The people around him were still bustling about, but there didn't seem to be any changes. That sharp voice also seemed to be directed at him. Just when he thought that he was being oversensitive, a red light flashed across his eyes. At the corner of the street, a figure in red attracted his attention. He looked over and saw a head of familiar pink hair fluttering in the wind. Before he had time to confirm, the figure in red and pink disappeared around the corner. Its Feng Nu. Nian Bing was overjoyed. After all, people with pink hair were too rare. Nian Bing's eyes were sharp. That red dress was the dress that Feng Nu had worn to the Duke's mansion today. Without any hesitation, he immediately followed her. When he turned the corner, he didn't see Feng Nu's figure. Nian Bing's heart skipped a beat. Feng Nu must be afraid of being discovered by her clansmen in a noisy environment, so she wanted to lead him to a quiet place. At that moment, he hurriedly walked along the street. After turning a few corners, he still didn't see Feng Nu's footprints. Just when Nian Bing was doubting his own judgment, the sharp voice sounded again. The source of the voice was very obvious. He knew that Feng Nu was summoning him. He didn't hear wrongly. In his joy, he hurriedly walked towards the direction of the voice. The sharp voice continued to sound. In his anxious mood, Nian Bing had unknowingly been lured out of Allen City. At the city gate, he finally saw the familiar figure in the distance. Her pink hair fluttered in the wind. It was so moving. With a flash, she had already entered the forest beside the main road. Nian Bing looked around and silently chanted an incantation. Using the same origin of ice and fire, he drew upon the wind element. With the help of Proud Heavenblade, he cast a rank 2 Gale spell on himself and quickly rushed into the forest. With the help of the Gale spell, his body was as light as a leaf. A few breaths after Feng Nu entered the forest, he also entered it. The sharp voice sounded at the right time. Nian Bing identified the exact direction and hurriedly ran over. Finally, following closely all the way didn't go to waste. When he ran into the depths of the forest, the red figure appeared again. This time, she didn't run away. She stood there with her back facing Nian Bing. Silence. She waited for his arrival. Feng Nu, Nian Bing called out excitedly. His figure quickly floated behind Feng Nu and reached out to grab her shoulder. At this moment, the Tianhua token on his chest suddenly emitted a hot message. Nian Bing felt a strong sense of unease. He forcefully retracted his right hand and quickly floated backwards. A red light that seemed to come from hell swept past his position. The hot flow made Nian Bing feel suffocated. If he was still in his original position, he would have been cut in two by that red light. The pink-haired girl in red turned around. How was this Feng Nu? It was clearly the beautiful Feng Xiang who was with her today. Because she and Feng Nu were both from the royal family of the Feng people, their temperaments were very similar. Coupled with the pink wig used for disguise, if one didn't look carefully, it was impossible to tell them apart. The red light on Nian Bing's sword jumped. Her cold face made Nian Bing feel a chill in his heart. An intense killing intent covered every corner of the surrounding Tianzhong. Although Feng Xiang's cultivation was inferior to Feng Nu's, Nian Bing didn't doubt that she had the strength to kill him with her phoenix flames. Stabilizing his mind, Nian Bing calmly said, "So it's Miss Feng Xiang. I wonder why you led me here?" Feng Xiang coldly snorted and said, "You don't know why? I led you here for only one reason, and that is to kill you. Don't think about how to escape. In this place, you don't have any chance." Nian Bing coldly said, "Miss Feng Xiang's words are too big. Could it be that you have forgotten what Garamendi said?" Feng Xiang's eyes revealed a trace of disdain. "You are a dignified man, yet you need to rely on others to protect you. What's more, we Feng people have never been afraid of anyone. Even dragons are no exception. If I kill you today, we will leave this place. It won't be easy for that dragon to find trouble with us. With our ancestor Phoenix protecting us, no difficulty can stop us. For the sake of the Feng people's future, I must kill you." Nian Bing smiled. His handsome face revealed joy from the bottom of his heart. Feng Xiang couldn't help but be stunned by his sunny smile. She angrily said, "You are about to die, yet you are still smiling?" Nian Bing smiled and said, "Miss Feng Xiang, do you know why I am smiling? There are two reasons. The first is naturally because of Feng Nu. Your Feng people's elders sent you to kill me because they are afraid that the Feng people's Phoenix of Hope will become another Urian like before. In fact, you are telling me that Feng Nu has me in his heart. Otherwise, you wouldn't care so much. Am I right? To be able to obtain Feng Nu's love, don't you think I should be happy?"